planted.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to SpikeTalk episode 24. I'm your boy Baby Bear. I'm your host. We got Frost, of course, the other host, and we got Ryan back again. RyanCentral, what's good, brother? China won, bro. They won champs.
China
Not only that, but obviously a Chinese team won Ascension as well. I would hope so. It was the Chinese region. But
I mean,
yeah. Welcome back.
I don't know what to say about it realistically. Like, I don't think anybody was expecting that. Like, even for me, I think even out of all of the teams that were like looking rough initially, EDG was the most like spotty. But as soon as they get into playoffs, they actually turned into the team that they were playing as, like, in China. Like, I think they just like playoffs. That might be just one part of it. I think because so many of the Chinese tournaments were like double elimination brackets, EDG were always good in those. So when they had like the group stages playing every week, they looked a little bit crappy, but they've always been good in brackets other than when they were playing in Swiss stage. So yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic result for the region. I'm just curious on like what it's going to do next, right? If there's like an English language feed now, because more people are interested in the region, how much more investment goes in from orgs that were in China and then left that might come back now, but it depends on like Ascension and stuff. It's really cool to see the region do that well, but I'm surprised at how early it's happened.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Like on previous episodes, we're like, we knew that China was going to be the best at some point, but to happen so soon, especially after like their performance in Shanghai and then also like making a roster change, it was really a Cinderella story. Like it's just crazy that it happened. Like you said, like no one expected it. Frost was like, dude, at some point Frost knew that they were gonna win just because he kept seeing Kang Kong in the gym, which is really funny. But like, other than that, like, there's no way we could have saw this happening. I didn't even think they were gonna make it past fucking PRX, dude.
Same,
it's just crazy.
But yeah, I did so we talked on the show about the thing that was most impressive for me was the amount of energy that Can had, because the whole tournament, every kill, every round, he was like super hype, and it never went down. And you can tell that that's like, you know, that's A, how he gets himself involved, but B, I also know physically how demanding that is. So physically, he was in shape. He was crazy confident. And, you know, his performance was similar to his performance in LA. Right?
Yeah.
The difference was they had Simon, who, in my opinion, equaled his performance. I think that ultimately made the difference. I'm still stunned. I'm still shocked.
Yeah.
But I'm happy simply because I did, for one Esports, they did a documentary actually for EDG, and it's so crazy that they fucking won at the same time that they did that. And the one thing I said there was, to me, it didn't matter who won in the finals, because you either had a bunch of rookies that nobody wanted, pretty much, even a coach that no one wanted, that completely made a run and the whole year showed that they belonged, and they win, or China, which is not only good for Valorant, good for all of esports, but what I brought up a lot was that team understood failure. They failed for 3 years, and they were getting shit on for 3 years. And then finally got over the hump. And to me, no matter what, that storyline was going to be fucking awesome, because it shows you that, you know, with the right determination, the right perspective, like, you know, you don't have to make sweeping changes, you know, release everyone but Con and just keep trying to like get the best available players. So I thought that was such a fucking crazy story.
It's funny. Like, you remember that last round on Bind? Like, when Kun gets the ace to almost go into overtime and they lose. Like, the genuine reaction for him was just kind of like a, all right, like, let's go Abyss. And you're right, like, they're 3-second memory players. They're all goldfish, because they're just like, if they make excruciating errors like that, other teams would have just like got bodied in that final map. Yeah, because they've just kind of let it slip. Especially like in cases where like you get battered on the first map, which was your choice, and you have 2 bans. And I mean, we've seen that through all of Ascension, right? Those teams going in the upper bracket, Apex looking shaky, M80 obviously like looking a little bit iffy in places. They didn't go through the upper bracket final, right? Because they got knocked to the losers.
Well, your point still stands.
Yeah, it's the whole when that team gets 2 bans in the first pick and they lose that first map. A lot of coaches will say, like, that's your, like, safety net. That's your security. If you lose it, it's kind of whatever. You're still good. But it's that whole, oh, we might lose this. And as soon as that starts sitting in your head, it almost feels like it's done. It becomes such a self-fulfilling prophecy, it feels, for some players, that to get it over the line for, like, Apex, especially when they were up against Pacific and Ascension, like, they could have easily have just fallen apart in that. And it's the same with, like, EDG. To an extent, like same sort of thing. They had 2 bans, lost the first map, but they managed to sort of bring it back because they just are kind of like, yeah, we make mistakes, move on to the next one. And other teams, especially somewhat inexperienced teams like Heretics are currently, now that they've got those failures out of the way, that's a team that could go on and do like incredible stuff because they've known failure and they kind of know, okay, this is how we get past that point to make sure that it never happens again. EDG are just experts in that. Like, they just don't care if they have a horrible round because they're like, it's 1 round out of hundreds in a best of 5 potentially.
And that's how you have to be, though, especially in games like this, because you can come back at any moment. I mean, we've seen the most ridiculous comebacks even this year, right? Think of that G2 Ascent comeback where Heretics are up 10-2 on them going into attack side. And it comes down to what, an eco round, and they bring it all the way back, like 11-2. I mean, it's not impossible. That's the thing. Like, it's always it truly is always winnable. I know that sounds like very memey to say, but like, especially at these tournaments, dude, like just a little bit of momentum in your favor can change the entire game and the pressure that you put onto somebody. And I feel like, especially with the way that Kong plays the game, like he applies a lot of pressure onto you, dude. Like, he's going to be in your face at times, especially with the way that he started playing Neon towards the end of the year. Like, he was putting the shticks on people, man. And they're going to crumble in moments like these if they don't have that goldfish memory like you're talking about. So it's really important. It's something that I learned to do like very early on in my career, being a pro, and it's gotten me far just by doing that.
To me, it's
strung
weird
up in the past.
I think Simon on tape he was their best player, in my opinion.
In terms of like impact,
just everything, but rarely made mistakes. Obviously, like, it's easy to be like, oh, his KO flashes were always perfect. Yeah. But I mean, like, in general, things like where he was rotating, when he used his dagger, when he caught people with the dagger, what was his response when he didn't? On tape, he looked so good. But even with that said, I think Can deservedly won MVP because the guy with the most impact, believe it or not, wasn't even playing the best. It was Can. Like, whenever it felt like they needed a round or whenever the momentum was slipping, he did make hero plays and it did work. Yeah. I mean, the most notable was that Abyss round where, in my opinion, and I'm not saying this to be a jerk, it's just sometimes when you watch it, I knew for sure he was getting aggressive when he did the walk down B. I knew it. I was like, oh, bro, he's about to walk down here. Like, everyone knew it. In my opinion, even the enemy was kind of prepared for it. They were they kind of had an idea it was coming, so got fucked. Unlucky, bro.
Yeah. I mean, nobody would do that at that point, right? In a grand final map, nobody with just a Guardian walking up would decide to go that aggressive. But, like, it's just the fact that, like, that's just a normal game for them. But I think it's a good point that you, like, bring up Simon because not only was he super impactful on that kind of, like, supportive role, but just the fact that EDG went for that supportive role shows that there's just more of, like, a culture shock thing happening. Because I think Bianca said it in an interview when he moved to Trace that for Bilibili, and this is the case, like, for players that I've spoken to, like Attacking Soul and a lot of players just in China generally, is you have to 30 bomb or you're going to get dropped. Doesn't matter what characters you have. That's the overall, like, culture consensus, that you have to have individual performances. So when you have everybody trying to get 30 kills to keep their job, nobody gets 30 kills, and that's why you just have people, like, just straight up inting, right? Because having Simon get, like, 4 kills in a series, like 88 ACS on a win or whatever it would be, people would go, that's not a good performance. But it's the fact of like Simon played that role so well, and we're sort of used to it, especially me, like in Europe, where there have been like supportive players that kind of just like boaster to a certain extent. But I'm thinking of like Bonkar when he was on stuff like Guild and that. He always used to get clowned on by having those kind of performances, but he used to kind of play that would drop his duelist to sheriff, just and by it like have no utility, basically. That he's just sort of playing second fiddle to somebody else. The other thing to bear in mind for Simon as well is he was on 2 teams technically before he joined EDG. One was IMA, which I think is EDG's academy team. Funny story, the last game that he played for IMA was against us and we beat him. So it's because of us that all of this happened is what I'm saying. It's the butterfly effect. But he was also on a Taiwan-Hong Kong team as well. And he played duelist on both. So this isn't somebody that just plays support stuff. Like he knows how to play a duelist, so he knows how to support a duelist as well. And I think that was just his whole game plan, and it really just gave Hong Kong a lot of comfort to go and do stuff, because he knew that there was always someone that was trying to help him out, either with utility or just a follower. I think you could make a point for all of the players having, like, you know, Kong Kong Chichu had some of the best games that he's had ever. He's always been a solid player, but like he's started to show it consistently. But I also want to give nobody his roses as well, because him moving over to IGL after Haodong got moved to like the bench.
Yeah.
I remember that G2 game where they lost, and he was just fucking inting the whole time. Like he was being caught out in such bad positions, just not great decision making on a macro level or individually. And then it's just, especially after you just saw Trace beating Leviatan with really good structure and foundations, you kind of look at it and go, all right, EDG, if you do something like that, you're in a good spot to actually top this group as well. But they kind of just fell into bad habits. But as soon as they got to that like playoff stage, nobody really tightened up his gameplay. His calling was a lot better. He was less of a liability individually. And he really led that team well, just attitude-wise. You listen to like, well, the translated comms and stuff from the grand final, and they were just other games as well. Like they would just be clowning on like Com for his like flanks and stuff in the middle of like the game. So it shows how important like the vibes and stuff were, and just how honestly comfortable they felt throughout the whole tournament, which is weird considering, you know, Heretics were buckling a little bit, but EDG, even losing some of the games and maps that they did, just always like bounced back, and it just shows that they always had their head in it. And I think nobody was instrumental to just keeping people from shit in the bed, so to speak.
So,
yeah,
Frost, you want to piggyback off of that? Because I'm going to ask him a different question now. So I have a question. So based off of what you said, which, yeah, I think we all agree with you. Do you think this is something that they can replicate going into next year? Or do you think this was truly just like right place, right time, like the stars aligned, like they all got into that flow that you basically just said it during this tournament? Like, do you think they can actually carry this over and become favorites going into next year?
So on a scale of like Fnatic back-to-backs, granted it wasn't champs, but like back-to-back international events, if Fnatic are on one side and like Ascend winning champs in 2020 are on the other, I'd say it's more towards Ascend than it is Fnatic. But
Okay.
it wouldn't surprise, like they're going to be a top contender in China, like full stop.
Yeah.
And like now that they've done it, they sort of know like, okay, we can do this, right? Like, I think it is just a little bit about like planning for the future as much as possible. But that is kind of hard with, you know, potentially a meta-defining patch 3 weeks before the league start, right? That's what caught a lot of teams out this year. And it's definitely something that caught EDG out to an extent because they were so reliant on playing stuff like Chi-Chu's Viper or Nobody's Sky. Yeah. So it kind of made their roles kind of crappy in cases. Also, like Smoggy being able to play controller and just looked really good on it at the end was an inspired move that happened in the middle of the season too. So, yeah, would it surprise me if EDG don't get anywhere close to a grand final for the like next year? Probably not. But I think it's more of like I can see other Chinese teams potentially pushing them. Trace did fantastic. I was incredibly disappointed in FPX, like the way that they went out. Like, I guess hindsight, Sentinels did do quite well.
The group is just it's
so many close games.
It's an unfortunate group, man.
Yeah, but I think it's just that final map on Lotus where they went in to try and counter like the deadlock, and they came with and it just failed. They had like their life on Viper and stuff like that. And it's just kind of like, I understand the idea of going for a Hail Mary, but I also think it's like, this is your potential final game of the season. Don't try to overcook something that could just fall flat on its face. Like, play what you're comfortable on and just have fun. That would be my like mantra, I suppose. But there's definitely been cases where FPX this year, because they were cooking with like triple controller and stuff with Clove when they came out.
Yeah.
I do feel like Nathan D maybe got a little bit too lost in the soup a bit with like, oh, that idea worked, so all my ideas are going to work. And I think it was just kind of shit.
I agree. To be honest. I didn't like that comp that they ran on Lotus. Like when I saw it, I was like, oh, dude, they're not gonna run their Clove comp that they've been playing this entire time. Because low key, like that comp, not a lot of people have experience playing against it. Like that was their win condition, I thought, going into that map of Lotus. Like, and they played it well. Like if you watch how they fundamentally play Lotus with that triple controller comp, they owned on it. So when they actually swapped off of it, I was like, dude, this is gonna be a wash. And that's what actually ended up happening. And it was sad because I feel like FPX is a team that is like, they're almost there. They're like right there.
Almost be Heretics again.
Right? That's what I'm saying. They're like right there. But then they just overcooked, like you said. And Frost was he brought up a point that like normally when you're playing against a team that's, you know, on paper better than you, and I think at that moment, you know, when Sen already had beaten Gen G, did Sen have to beat FPX first and then Gen G, or did they already beat Gen G? I don't remember how it went.
They already beat Gen G. That was the first game.
Yeah, so I feel like that's what I'm saying. So I feel like going into that, this team beat Gen G. Gen G has been smacking you all year long, pretty much, probably in scrims too.
I thought they lost that first series against Gen G because they were playing the deadlock then, and everybody was like, well, because they were getting clowned on initially. FPX, yeah.
FPX have been getting smacked up by it. So if I'm looking at that, I'm like, yo, this first of all, it's Sen. I would be like, we should just keep running our Clove shit. It's hard to counter because not a lot of people have experience playing against it, especially in an A. Bro, I guarantee you Sen have never played against that triple controller comp once in their life. I promise you that. Unless they ran like internals like we did when we were helping out TSM, there's no way they ran up against that comp. And I feel like they would have had the higher chances of success catching them off guard with that rather than trying to play a comp that's more like defaulty. Like what they ran like a double controller. Like that's not throwing a team off that's better than you, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, well, the narrative as well was that like Sentinels were struggling with playing either the deadlock on Ascent. Like they would, like you had Sean Garrett's just gone, they're just fundamentally playing it wrong. Like the timing and everything is wrong. Yep. Same with like Lotus. So if you're FPX, maybe this isn't because they're like in the same like bubble. They're not looking at Reddit. They're not looking at the general consensus of what the community is saying with the stuff that they're doing on Deadlock isn't great. But if you're FPX or any other team in that instance, you're going, they're the ones that are struggling with like their identity. Like they want to play this comp, it isn't working, they're kind of being clowned on it. It's for them to solve. We don't need to change anything. Let's not make this an even murkier map by changing up our comp to counter something which honestly isn't even going to work for them. They either try to keep it the same and then you just exploit it more, or they change it and you're playing on your comfy comp. It's like as soon as you get into the like loading screen and you see their comp, FPX have lost. And I think that's kind of how it felt, that they were like, well, we banked on them doing this thing and it didn't work. And it's such a disappointing way to go out. I also want to say quickly for like Bilibili, I kind of think that their result was somewhat expected. Like they were kind of good through.
DRG was by far, in my opinion.
JDG.
Sorry. JDG, in my opinion, 100% should have been a champs. They were actually pretty decent.
I can't believe they got rid of Anaks. I don't know why, like, with how they looked towards the end, why they would get rid of a head coach that made that team look so, like, legit the best looking team in China. I know I'm a massive Stew fan, so I'll say that, but, like, in playoffs, they had to, like, beat FPX and EDG, basically, to qualify. Otherwise, DRG would have gone instead, which, to be honest, I'm kind of glad that they didn't go. No disrespect to, like Vukashu and stuff. I like the team, I like the guys, but getting through because they managed to get to Shanghai would have been a bit of a disappointment. With, like, Bilibili were looking a lot better, like with Bale and just the way that they were structured. But JDG genuinely looked incredible. For them to even get to playoffs by going 1-5 in that first stage, to be like 1 or 2 wins away from champs, is a testament. So it's crazy to me that they got rid of a head coach that managed to turn it around that quickly and get that team working as well as it did.
I have a little bit of info there. So they have a Korean coach named Stu. It looks like he was the strategic coach. It looked like it was his comps, his strats.
But they have a strategic coach and a player called Stu. Stu's the duelist on JDG.
Okay, so I gotta get. There is a JDG have a Korean. Okay, maybe
it's Anaks, I think, right? Like Anaks was the one that came across. There was another. Yeah, they have another coach that was on JDG from the beginning.
Lai Chen is the one I keep always forgetting. Yes, so I'm also surprised by that. Then I'm sorry. The Korean coach is the strategic coach that came with the comps and did everything. And
he's not even listed on there.
Yeah, and the reason I know about this is because let's just say there's a comp that they run that we like, and ban myself and Cruz literally
Haven comp, right? Like, was it that one?
Yeah, we convinced him. So one of the comps that we couldn't show at Champs that we prepared, we were about to fucking cook if we made it out of groups because I had that saved for playoffs because our number one pick in playoffs was going to be Haven, even though we weren't playing it before, blah, blah. You know how I operate. Yeah. So he went in a server with us and like talked to us and blah, 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 because we went, I don't remember. I don't know if it was Jace or basically one of our players hit up one of their players. And then he's like, oh yeah, you're going to want to talk to this guy. It wasn't the head coach. It wasn't the head coach. It was the Korean guy. Look, I'm sorry. I fuck up all their names. My bad.
Yeah, I get it for you. Because JDG's coach was on the team since like this time last year when they're in Evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you're right. I think Anaks was the Korean. I got confused for a second. I thought it was Stu because I think Stu was the player that we went to.
Yeah, that would make more sense. Yeah.
But anyways, the point is, we went to a player. The player said, oh, you want to speak to this guy? Cruz or Ban was like, that's weird. This isn't even the head coach. Why are you throwing us the assistant? Then we find out when we're in server with him, oh, this is his comp. This is his stuff. Da-da-da-da-da. And we were like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So for him to be replaced, if it was Anaks, who I'm thinking of, which I think he was, right? Because he came from DRX, if I remember correctly.
he came from some Korean teams. Like, I definitely remember and recognize the name. But yeah, it just felt... I've never seen a team turn it around that well.
Right, right.
And the other thing is... Yeah. The other thing, too, is like they were getting bodied in groups, and then they played Wolves at the end of stage 1, and they just absolutely destroyed Wolves, who were like, okay, decent at that point. I remember watching and be like, well, they're playing so much like better and sharper than before. Like, I wonder why. And then it cuts to the comms and they're coming in English. And I was fuming because I was like, they should have done this from the beginning, like literally, because when they were on Rare Atom, I think they commed in English too, because they had 3 Chinese players, 2 Korean. And like, I think they wanted to move to Chinese for various reasons. But like, Stu could speak some Chinese, but it was like you sort of said, like an 8-year-old's level of Chinese, which is probably good enough to do call-outs and stuff. But you could just tell, like, for him, he didn't have the follow-up, he didn't have the support, he didn't really know what he was doing, like timing-wise. He was sort of just left out on an island. And so it's telling that 3 out of the top 4 teams at China Ascension were all English coming teams. It's crazy.
Well, you think they have Russians, they have other guys that are playing in the league. Like FPX has Australian, right? So
yeah, awesome, yeah.
I mean, they're not, I don't think, calming in English, but my point is that, yeah, I mean, imports are, a valuable resource if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, which, like, because I remember you tweeting saying, like, teams shouldn't be allowed to, like, drop or get rid of players after they qualify for Ascension.
Okay, that's definitely something, yes.
Because it's like... Then, yeah, I think for me, China need to get rid of the 2 import rule because it is going to keep running into this. Like having somebody qualify, I forgot his name off the top of my head for XLG, Crystal. Having somebody like Crystal qualify and then just immediately be dropped because they have to pick him or Raga is atrocious. And like, so China's always going to do that. Like, that's the thing. Like, they're always going to get 2 imports, and it's the rule everywhere else, so it doesn't make sense to change it differently. But when it is a case of like China's such a big region with so many people in it that you can just get people from Russia or Korea in. It just feels a little bit like you're kicking the can down the road. It happened with Rare Atom. You could say that them having not having Yeoman, sorry, but JDG screwed them over because they had to keep Stew. Same things happened here. And like, it'd be nice even if they just kept Crystal on the bench just to earn a bit of a paycheck for being there, or at least give him a cut of some of the like bundle money, right? When that comes out again for next year. It's just for somebody that was one win away from Ascension last year to go in and win it this year is kind of criminal. I think that's a bit of like Riot need to like oversee that a bit better because that's players being screwed over in your ecosystem.
Well, it's not just that either. There's also like age that has a lot to do with this too. Yep. I mean, so in EMEA Ascension, the team that got second place, and that was a close ass series. I mean, they could have easily won it. I'm pretty sure they were like all underage. So like, what happens now if they actually won it? If they beat Apex, does Apex get to go in? Do they get brought up now because this team is all young? Like, why are they allowed to compete? Why are people allowed to compete if they can't actually be brought up to the league? It's definitely a fundamental error in the format and the foundation that is set from tier 2 going into tier 1, because in tier 1 you're only allowed one import slot. So it's either have it 2 globally for everybody. I mean, you already have it at 2 for Ascension, right? Or you know, bring it down to 1 and have everything be the same. I don't understand. We've been talking about this too. It just doesn't make sense, and it just in the long run it's going to be a fucking problem. Because, like I said, if a team with all underage kids actually ended up winning this year, what would Riot have done? Like, I don't know. They dodged a bullet, you know? Like, we don't know.
Yeah. There's a ton to unpack here. So let's start with, okay, in China, the 2 import rule existed mainly because no one expected China to win this early, right? So they gave them an extra import slot because basically the region sucked, and they knew it would take time. So they allowed teams to have more talent coming from different regions to open up obviously more slots, but mainly to make China more competitive. So I understand that. I think now that EDG won, I think obviously that should be changing as soon as possible, especially given what you guys just talked about with a tier 2 team ascending and then having to drop one.
Sucks, dude.
Right?
Like,
So
imagine signing a contract as a player at the beginning of the year, knowing that you're going to get dropped and you actually win and qualify. I mean, that feels like shit.
So that to
and
me,
Crystal is a beast.
Yeah,
like literally, like he should be looked
at. He
at.
can't really go anywhere else. That's the other thing, because getting visas for Russian players, especially into Europe, is a bitch. It's really hard, and so now, it's so much easier for Russian players to get like the work visas over into China and stuff than it is anywhere else. So it is a little bit like, sure, it's a difficult situation going on there. It has been since like 2022 when stuff started kicking off, but it's not Crystal's fault, right? He's just going to go where he can play Valorant. And I think that when you have China that is very eager to learn and to improve, that are effectively arguably catching up, and they have so many resources, so much money to work with, that they can pick some of the best talent, move them across. I think it wouldn't surprise me, because I don't know if this is more of a Tencent thing now. That's the thing I don't really know about like Valorant in China or any Riot game in China. As far as I know, it's Tencent. Like, they have full autonomy over it. That's why there's like Valorant Mobile happening there, because it doesn't really have that much to do with. I'm talking at my ass a little bit, so it's a little bit like allegedly. But as far as I understand, Valorant in China isn't LA's like Riot to deal with. So like English language feed, they can do it, but that's a whole different discussion, right? Where it's like, it really depends if like Tencent or TJ Sports wants to do that kind of stuff,
right?
And so
they have a salary cap, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, because they could spend so much, like $16 million was spent on JDG's league team last year alone.
Dude.
Why do you think I'm such a JDG fan? I'm just like, come on,
you're trying to get on there, huh?
Yeah. But it is kind of one of those things that, like, if Tencent turned around and said, we're putting just one import rule because we want to develop Chinese talent, I think everybody would turn around and go, yeah, that's fair enough. Honestly, that's very valid.
And it also just translates well to going into the league. Like, it just makes more sense.
Especially when it's just 1 year, too. Like, if it was 2 years and you could balance around it a little bit more, but when you have these, like, kind of strict rules that kind of put you in a bit of a box, and you're only there for potentially 1 year, I'm not surprised that a lot of orgs are kind of looking at it and going, I don't know if it's worth the investment to be involved in this, because it's like so many hoops to jump through, and we might want to be there a year.
Right. And the amount, trust me.
And it kind
I
of
know.
forces you as an organization
I've
to
heard it
like
enough.
have to invest in the best.
Right.
Otherwise, like, what are you doing? You're only there for a year.
Exactly.
Like
It's crazy.
there's so much more pressure on these teams that are like in the relegation series thing than anybody else. And I don't know what they can really do about that though. Like I don't know how they can really fix that. You'd have to think of a whole new system entirely, right? It's just
I have an idea. It's not really a baked one as such, but I think like I kind of like the 1 year. If you do well, you sort of stay in. I just think having it as 2 Ascension teams is way too much of a limit on. Like if you bring that back up to 14 teams, like it was initially planned to be, and you sort of have like 4, like essentially, like if all 4 Ascension teams do poorly and they end up back in Ascension for the next year, you've got tier 2 teams coming up as well as them fighting for 4 spots instead of 2, or maybe even potentially 1. Like if one team does really well and makes champs, that's still 3 spots for tier 2 teams to be fighting over.
yeah.
Which
I
is
agree
like
with you,
a
actually.
good, like it feels a bit more of a rumble.
There
of
needs
like,
to be more teams.
I
yeah,
agree with you.
a bit more of like the bottom chunk of a league versus the top chunk of like EMEA, right? Because
Yeah.
to get that, like, you want to see M80 qualify with the effort and stuff that they've put in and had to deal with.
No, like
And
it's one where
they
it's just
and now we lost a big team. But your argument makes more sense now because teams are getting 33% now. I did the math last week. I don't know if you want to break down, but they're effectively getting around 33% of what the first year when they said, when you're in franchise, we're going to subsidize, you get up to like $1 million. They're getting 33% of that now, locked in right now. So adding 2 more teams, why can't be like, guys, we're paying all this money. We can't. They cut the entire league and everywhere. Every team. So there is no to me, there's no more justification for it's too expensive. It's not, because they cut 66% of everyone's, subsidy. So
I don't know if this is a good segue into like another big topic to talk about, but one thing that dawned on me the other day that made me irrationally angry is, now that like the champs bundle, every team in the league gets a cut from that instead of the 16 that make it.
Yeah.
I am fuming that Bleed earn any of the pennies that I spent on that bundle. You know what I mean? Like it almost feels like I want that money for the champs bundle to go to the 16 teams that work their asses off all year in order to get there. I understand why some of the other orgs have got a cut from that, because it is a franchise that needs to be an investment on their behalf. But it does kind of irritate me that there's orgs in the league that are just either putting on a skeleton crew or just shit in the bed, i.e. Bleed. But there's other examples of it that there's like orgs that are definitely on Riot shit list potentially with how they're managing their like teams and stuff this year.
Only one. Yeah.
I'm annoyed that they get like $1 from me, you know what I mean? I want my dollars to go to the teams that, like Heretics and stuff, that managed to turn a horrible year around last year in order to get in there. Like, I just hate that. Like, you've got the bundles and stuff, give them a cut from that. I don't want any of the champs bundle money to go to the teams that are just shit in the bed, bottom of the league, that don't deserve. I know it's kind of like you get more of a share if you go to champs, but as far as I'm concerned, those teams should get all of it.
Well, in an ideal world, the relegation would be with the actual bottom league, like
that's what
with
it
the bottom
been.
of the barrel teams, right?
They didn't want to do it.
But the fact that it's a partnership, like and there was promises made, you kind of can't go back on that anymore. So it's just like, fuck.
5 years.
It's like,
technically,
fuck.
in 3 years, everyone is up.
Yeah, and
They
it's
get
like,
to have the
bruh.
conversation again.
Yeah, but it's like,
Yeah, but I mean, if you want to talk about Bleed, let's get it started, right?
yeah,
We're gonna talk about the big news.
let's do it, bro.
Let's
Bleed
go
is
shoot.
gone. Bleed
Yeah.
is gone. They were here for like a year. Signed yay, benched yay, you know, whatever the hell happened, imploded. But also didn't do any organizational things that they required. Like, do you guys have the scoop on this? Because like I don't know too much about.
Legia was in.
I know we did it with him, and I
he
didn't
did
even
a
know
show
that
with
you
us.
all knew.
We didn't know, but we
knew.
there were rumblings, and then obviously he found out. Let me tell you one thing that bothers me about this. One, and then we can talk about everything else. I won't say who at Riot, but someone at Riot basically said, "You basically, you guys don't deserve your spot. Basically, to the players, you guys don't deserve your spot anyway, based on their results. Because an argument was made for if the organization sucks, why can't we find another team and just keep our spot because we earned it, right? And they basically told them that, bro. When I found that out, I was irate because it's obvious me and Riot have had a very tenuous relationship, and yeah, without saying who said it, I thought it was really unfair for them to say that because I think, it shows a real lack of understanding of how difficult it is to get there. And then just because they played poorly, DFM have 2 wins in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
They chose them. At least Bleed earned their way into the
one
league.
in. Yeah.
DFM didn't earn shit. And I'm not trying to shit on DFM. It is what it is. But I'm just saying, like, I thought that was a really shitty thing to say. And I think it just shows you the disconnect between the competitive side of Valorant and the business side of Valorant. There's still this disconnect, and we can get into the politics and specifics of that, but I'll just leave that alone. But yeah, so
it's because of the system that's in place, though. Because if there was a system that wasn't like that, like a normal,
it's not just that too. They have non-esports people in the building. Anyways, I'm just not even going to get into it.
So I think for me that it almost breaks into 3 different areas of the results of the team itself, which doesn't just correlate to the players, it's the coaches. It's just the whole how do you set this team up to succeed, just on a daily basis. For example, I heard stories of in champs. Orgs bringing performance coaches, camera crews and stuff, and it sounded like the practice rooms weren't that big. And not only have you got all 5 players, a coach and assistant coach, but you've got the manager, you've got a performance coach, you've got some other people helping, you've got camera, and it's just kind of, I can imagine if you're a coach I'm not saying shit, but I don't think it was a case of multiple teams, but I can imagine being a coach there and just being how the fuck are we meant to work when there's all this stuff going on? I understand, that's what keeps the lights on. That's what keeps the, ice cream from melting in the fridge, so to speak, if just you have to do the content and stuff. But at the same time, if you're there and you have, a good opportunity to do well, you kind of want to give players and stuff a bit of freedom in order to work. But yeah, so you've got, the player performances, which is, results-based. You've got the org itself, allegedly being late on payments and stuff and supporting the players. But I also think there is an element of how the players conducted themselves throughout the whole Yay thing, the whole crazy guy drama and stuff like that. I think it's a shit show, and I think the players have kind of got their just punishment for it. Crazy guy now is going to be a bit of a harder pickup for other orgs now, because we've seen kind of what happens if things go wrong for him, that he just kind of spits his dummy out.
Fair.
Rightly so or not.
Fair.
Yeah. So that's kind of his punishment, right? Similar like New Zero when he left Carmen Core. He made a decision to leave. Now it's going to be really difficult for him to be picked up again. And I don't think he has been picked up since, right? That's kind of the hill that you die on. But I don't think it's fair for that to be used, even though it's a huge embarrassment on the org, the players, and just even the league as a whole, that all that shit was going on at the same time. I don't think that's fair to use it as ammo against Bleed as a reason to kick them out, when there's so much of a focus, I guess broadcast-wise to an extent, of just the BMing and shit-talking and the drama, what Bonka did yet today with NRG and having shit. It seems that the community want more of that, but then you're sort of almost punishing players for being that personality and stuff. It sort of reminds me of the whole fucking Boaster thing from Shanghai, where Yinsu was saying, we need to chill out on how we talk to pros because they're human beings. And they're well, what about these broadcasts and stuff where Steel made fun of Ye and stuff on the EMEA broadcast? It's she wasn't even there. She's not involved in that at all. It's this weird,
that was such a crazy
it's super
thing,
frustrating, this big juxtaposition, I suppose, of oh, it's content, it's banter and stuff, versus how much of that is actively used against players. And I guess in this case, orgs, because, that's why I was super frustrated at Bleed, is just how the whole situation kind of unfolded, because it is a little bit of an embarrassment for the league as a whole. And also, with the changes to Ascension, it being 1 year instead of 2, it wouldn't surprise me if some of those changes came in because they're looking at bleed. They're hearing all this stuff about like payments being late, and then just how much of a we maybe don't want this team here at all. So they're like, well, maybe we can like get these teams out the door earlier. So Bleed have like fucked up the whole scene as well to an extent with the way that they've conducted themselves.
Yeah. So let me tell you something. Late payments, they're not the only ones. Also,
exactly. Yeah. There's partnership teams that are still there that
also,
maybe have done worse.
I don't mind saying this because it is what it is. Furia didn't even have a credit card, a business credit card to give me when I was in LA. I just want to say, at one point, trust me when I say this, I am just as big an idiot as they are. I was $20K in the hole.
Hell no.
Paying my own money for players.
Hell no.
Not salaries, just food and expenses before I got reimbursed. By the way, I got reimbursed after I was fired, just for the record.
Getting reimbursed for shit is really hard as well. It's such a ball ache.
I just want you to know, Riot knew of a lot of these problems. They did nothing. As a matter of fact, the handler, the guy that was there that knew about a bunch of issues, condition-wise, for the record, is gone. Misa. So my point is, your biggest point about did they just not like him and want him gone? Yes. Because there is just as much of the unprofessionalism coming from other orgs that they know about that's documented. They're not even the only team in Pacific that have been late on payments. So, right? I'm just going to say that what you said there is going to go under the radar. No, that is the biggest piece of what the fuck happened there. Now, why were they so upset? And what is it about Bleed? I don't know. We've all heard rumors. We've all heard
be something
that's the CEO
that's deeper
and other
than
people. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I will just say that it's not about that other stuff. I think is just an excuse because of some of the shit that happened.
Yeah. So I suppose the guard stuff as well doesn't help. Like it has to be said, but like if it's got to suck. Also, just the decision was made in the middle of a season. Like I'm thinking like. M80 and Apex probably saw that news, and like there's just holes in like Apex and M80 HQ where there's just a hole in the drywall because the CEO's punched his like fist through it, right? Like you're there, like you've invested so much money into a scene, you're like, it's like we got one foot in the door. Also, it was supposed to be from next year. 2 teams can qualify a year from each region, right? So we would have seen like M80 and Too Good have qualified if it was from next year onwards. I think that was the thing with the Attack and Soul as well, where it's like, we'll set up this team now with double a chance to qualify next year. And then as soon as they changed it, it's like, I mean, they were like, yeah, we're ceasing operations in Valorant for now because like it's still a young org. They need to get set up in China with like their own like headquarters and stuff. And like it's a valid decision. And I completely understand it when changes like this are made. Like seeing a lot of orgs either just drop out or that were potentially going to get involved, seeing how much money the stipends and stuff made, and sort of the proof of concept that the franchise partnership system does work to an extent. I think a lot of orgs were like, yeah, maybe we'll come back in. It's looking good. But then this change being announced, the timing of the change as well was just really bad. And I think it's caused a lot of problems. Maybe temporary problems for now, but just seeing the whole scene kind of just give up. Yeah, like Ascend have gone, like your first Champions winner going. Not only are they going, but they're creating such a stink about it too. Like making podcast episodes talking about like why the whole system has fallen apart. Other orgs seeing that and deciding, yeah, no thanks, I'm not getting involved. Like that's a bad look. And I do think to an extent that Ascend have like spit their dummy out. Like I saw people having to go at Apex because they're not making content in the same way that Ascend were. But it's like at this point, Apex have dropped like their CS team, I think their Rocket League team. The only thing that they had was Valorant. If they didn't qualify for Ascension, I don't even think the OG survives. Never mind drops out of Valorant. I think the whole thing just falls apart. So it's super frustrating to see the whole scene, even at the top levels of tier 2, have those like OGs just go, there is no point us being involved anymore.
And that kind of sucks because now we're going to feel a trickle down effect where the talent that we get, I mean, obviously there's always going to be good players, but it might not be as high as what it could have been, because there's going to be people that stick around. I mean, keep in mind, I'm a little bit older, but, like let's say I was in the same spot that I was at and I was younger. all of a sudden I have to like think, dude, like, is it worth playing tier 2, like with no money, no pay, and just waste my life away, you know? Like, or do I go and make some money in the world? You know, this is a decision that people need to make now that are trying to make it from tier 2. And it might not, some people might not even have the luxury to be able to do that at all. Because like they relied on the money, you know, like I don't mean to call out certain people, but for example, GMD at one point he had like a house that he had to pay for, a car, like had a dog, like all this shit, like girlfriend at the time. Maybe he still does have the same girlfriend, but like there's a lot of bills he had to pay, bro. And it was like at one point, like there was a point where like TSM wasn't even gonna be in either, but they just put their faith, and that's really as much as orgs can do at this point. Like you just put your faith in a team and hope that you go on this miracle run and you make it into the league. Yeah, and even when you do make it into the league, you got to pay your way in.
And that's why I had to end it with flip side, because you have too much dumb money in here, just doing this, not realizing what's going on. Yeah. And then you end up in a system like this where it's basically a crapshoot. But what I will say is the theme of this episode, I think, needs to be humanizing some of the stuff around esports. We talked about Can and like all the physical stuff and how he was able to like get over, you know, have the perseverance of failure and obviously win a championship. You know, he sings songs, does all this shit, right? Like you see him like, you know, he wanted that one badly, right? Yeah. But then you have the other end of this, which, you know how terrible I feel for Legia and sScary and all these guys?
Oh, the players that won their way into the league.
They earned it, and then, you know, not going to make too big of a deal out of this anymore, but somebody basically goes, well, sorry, bro, tough shit. You guys didn't deserve to be there anyway.
Sucks.
Right? And then you have an org. If the org makes a mistake, the players are suffering. And now they're all basically free agents, right? Everyone is like pissed at us because I'm not signing sScary, which, you know, yeah. But we have our own shit we have to deal with. We have our own team. Like, you know, this wasn't in the plans. Do we throw away everything just to sign sScary? Like, to me, the answer is no. And it's not sScary's fault. It's not that he's not good enough. It's we committed to coming back as a group.
Yeah.
Now I have to deal with the best player in Thailand's available, sign him. And it's like, guys, it's fucking complicated. It's not that easy. sScary goes from best player in Thailand in the league to now all of a sudden he's a free agent. What the fuck happens to him? He loses a year of his career.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything wrong.
And there's that onus on you because you're like the Thailand representative team.
Right.
That, like, it just goes back to what, like the ESL tournament last year, where just as soon as people started to see the team that you put together, it was done, right? People had made up their minds, and it's just like you have to sort of like just in the process to an extent.
Still getting flamed.
I've heard everything. Cut Van, Cruz, Governor, Jit. Like, what, guys? What do you?
Cut yourself.
We made champs, and yes, I know we went 0-2 barbecue. I understand. Trust me, nobody has accepted all the punches for that more than me. But I also know, and Baby Bacon can attest to this, we saw them play against all these other teams. This team is capable of doing what EDG did. Doesn't mean that we can't improve. And of course, if there's ways to improve your roster, sure. But we have all these tournaments lined up this offseason. Like, I'm about to go to Japan to play in this Red Bull thing. I got to play in another tournament in Busan. Wait, you want me to cut our players to just add sScary and throw him in the middle of a mix and do the same shit we did in November last year when we went to that Thai tournament and we didn't even win? We lost to like NKT or some bullshit, and everyone's mad at us.
Esports, right? Like, you turn into like, do you want to win or do you want representation?
Right.
And both are completely valid. Trying to do both, you end up not appeasing either side.
Yeah, but if you want representation, I'm not your coach. I'm telling you that right now.
Well, to be fair,
you want to win,
thank God
I'm in
Primi is Thai, right? So I'm in.
Right, for sure.
Right? Like, you got one of the best players in the game, and he just so happens to be Thai. Yeah. But that's besides the point. Yeah, like,
well, the reason I'm going off is only because I feel terrible. I like sScary. I would absolutely love to have sScary.
Yeah.
But under what circumstance? Whose life do I ruin of the players on my team?
Yeah.
And this is what I think people don't understand on the other side of that, right? Is all these Thai people, especially, are pissed. And bro, I'm getting in my mentions, everything. And I understand sScary is like the guy in Thailand. I get it. But I have to ruin somebody else's life because someone else fucked up, a la Bleed. And is it guaranteed he's that big of an upgrade that we get sScary and all of a sudden we're like a world beater?
Yeah.
Right? And I think all these things happen to us. We're not even involved. And that's why I think,
To trickle
us
down
at
effect,
least,
man.
when we do this
ripple
show,
effect.
yeah, and the people that are here, we need to humanize this stuff because it's so easy for people to be like, "Yo, pick up Scary," but I'm also ruining someone else's life in the way that Scary's life just got ruined off a whim like that, right? And it's like, man, it's fucking tough. I felt so bad for Legia, bro. Like I talked to him a little bit about it,
especially after
I
like
felt
being on the pod.
absolutely terrible
it's
for
tough,
him.
man.
because they did nothing to deserve this, nothing. So
They did nothing that no other team, other teams in that situation would have acted the same, if not worse.
right, so
Either for content or for weather. But like the thing that you raised about Scary as well is like it's worth the risk with the asterisks attached to it that you didn't sign Primi. Like that
Right.
was your risk. That was your gambit. And
Exactly.
like you're trying to do more. It almost feels that you're like doubling on nothing when you've picked up a player that not only again represents a region, which again I don't feel is that important. I don't know how much stock realistically puts on that. I guess that's like an interesting conversation. But that you have basically already made you've got a player that's from that region and is also new, fresh, arguably probably cheaper than what Scary would be as well, because Primi is sort of new to it as well. So it's like
100%.
I wonder, I was thinking about this before, especially with some of the young talent that's been signed to various teams, how much donk from CS has impacted how orgs view talent acquisition? Just getting a young player that's completely almost unknown.
To be honest,
brother, you're
disrespect,
speaking to the choir.
no
right now.
GMs, bro. I'm willing to put money on this. 97%. I know that's random. Most of the GMs, and by most I mean more towards all. These guys don't give up. Most of them don't know who Donk is. Most of them don't even understand player development. Trust me when I tell you, I've been around long enough to speak to these fucks. They don't even understand, they don't even have patience with young players. Let's just start there. Don't even have patience. So, and Donk, to me, what's funny is Donk isn't even the one. You know who was Donk before Donk, bro? Simple. When Flipside picked him up, that motherfucker was an available free agent. That motherfucker was a free agent. Hellraisers got rid of him because he, was just pissing everybody off. Simple was a free agent. Just think about that for a second. So we have become content driven. We are run by analytics, and I don't mean in-game analytics. Most people don't even understand that. That's a fucking conversation. Stats and analytics, 90% of the esports teams have never even heard of it. They don't even understand it. I'm talking about like social media. This is probably my biggest mistake as both an owner and someone in the scene. Like, look what I've done for my career. You know how many world championships I got, Ryan? Like, you know how many games I've actually had success in? Did you even know I have 8 CS majors in a row, by the way? One of the few teams that have done that. You know why you don't know that? Because I don't talk about it. But you know why I don't talk about it? Because when I grew up, I was told you don't talk about the things you do. You just do the things that you're supposed to do. I missed the boat on content and, social media and even stuff like this. The only reason I'm doing this show is because Steve and fucking Baby Bay convinced me to fucking do it. Right? Like, because this is not, I didn't understand this world fast enough. That's what this has become.
It's
more about names.
But it's the only way to actually make money right now with the state of everything. And that, I mean, honestly, that's part of, if any region is at blame for the salaries and what happened with all this shit, it's got to be North America, bro.
100%, bro.
Because we inflated the fuck out of this shit. I'm not gonna lie.
Two organizations and 2 GMs, and I'm not gonna name them here because it is what it is.
They're just
they
throwing
know
money.
The fuck they are.
Funny money.
They were, and one of them was lying about it. One of them, bro. It's so scummy, Ryan. One GM from one org, who by the way still has a fucking job. You know what he was doing? He was offering players fake contracts. To up their price because he knew them and liked them and wanted them to earn more
he was
money.
gassing them up for the other team to buy them out for more.
I've
heard about this.
Just so they paid more. By the way, it's how bad it is.
Crazy.
And now we are paying for the after effects of this.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's bad. It's bad.
Bro,
The repercussions have been terrible, bro.
You don't even know, because I brought up, I don't know if we're going to get to it on this show, but I was just talking to Baby Bay and Steve about, let's just say, young talents. And I showed them a document from my time at 100 Thieves from 2021. If you look at that document, 90% of those players on that list, there's like 30 players. They're all tier 1 professionals.
Yeah, they are.
All players that 100 Thieves could have had before they signed for any team. All players they declined. Why?
Get into it. But might as well just talk about it. You literally scouted out. You scouted out Zander and Cryo
I'll show you
when they were on Sword together as a duo package, and you wanted to bring them.
Right.
You don't have to show anything. Just talk about it.
Yeah. So basically, that was who I wanted to replace.
You have receipts, but
Josh and Nitro. I wanted also 100 Thieves. When we didn't qualify for Reykjavik, I wanted to make a change. I wanted to, out of respect for the player, I'm not going to mention his name, but there was clearly a player that I didn't get along with and we didn't see eye to eye with. And instead of
not getting along with people, I can't see that, right?
Right.
Wow, bro.
Right.
That doesn't seem very likely.
Zekken was the person I wanted to replace him with. The answer was a no. Now, part of that was because we had 2 other players that said he wasn't good enough, and basically they didn't see it, which is unlucky because neither of those players are professionals at the moment. Neither of those players are professionals at the moment. And then, we go to Berlin. That wasn't the game plan. We weren't supposed to go to Berlin with the 5 that we had. As a matter of fact, the reason why Nitro went to CS was because we brought players up so that when we went to Berlin, we were going to have a new player. The organization said no. And then what ended up happening was Nitro got ticked off and said, I'm outie. I knew before we went to Berlin that Nitro was basically signing with Liquid. I knew he was gone. He told me in confidence. So my mindset was all about, okay, who do I replace Nitro and Steel with, basically? So, Cryo and Zander were basically...
They were crazy at that time. Like
they were
Cryo at that time was fucking... I mean, he's still good, but like there was like 5 teams that wanted him. But like 100 Thieves was like the clear option for him, like straight up. I remember like, because I know his agent.
And he wasn't on Duelist at the time.
Yeah, it was Sova and shit.
He was on Sova.
Yeah, and he was nasty, but people wanted him as both.
Yeah.
I remember people wanted him as either.
And I had no problem with that because I was moving Hiko to Sentinel like he ended up doing in LCQ. It was perfect. It was perfect. Everything worked out. Teams don't care. By the way, funny, they ended up buying Cryo for over $200,000. And now they have Zander 3 years later. And they're talking about great things take time. No, you don't need 3 years to have seen this coming. I had it in 2021, September.
And he has receipts too.
And I got fired because I felt so vehemently that this is the route that we should go. Frankly. And people got promotions despite wasting 3 years of people's lives. Asuna is now 21 years old. He's been in the org 4 years.
It's crazy.
And let's talk about the success he's had at Champs. Explain it to me. Exactly.
He even attended a Champs?
Yes, O2.
And he's so good too. Yeah. Like it's actually...
That's my point.
It actually sucks because he's actually like...
That's my point.
Really
now he's 21 years old.
Like people were looking at him like even like last year, like, yo, this guy's up next on the chopping block, no? Because like this is what naturally happens when you're on a roster for a long time. It's like, and this was happening to me on FaZe as well. It's like you hit a point where like after the second year, then everyone's like, oh, they're still not winning. Maybe it's this guy that's been around the entire time. So people were talking about it. Like it's not like it's some random thing. Like people were literally talking about Asuna and being like, yo, it's time for him to go next. But then, I mean, if you look at him, he looks great. He looked great this year. Honestly,
I'm going to keep my opinion on that. I'm just saying he's 21 years old now. How many years do you have to waste?
It's like, what, 40 in gaming years?
No. I'm just saying, like, why I'm bringing up that he's 21 now is simply, Primy, look how young Primy is. What if I fuck up that way too? What if in 4 years from now, he's never reaching where he's supposed to go? We all
know
know
what
what
conversation, like, because I wanted to make a video on Asuna around 2020. I talked about how good he is, and you were like, I'd hold off on it because I don't want his head getting too big.
Exactly. Oh, I'm so happy you brought that up because another reason. So my relationship with Asuna is really poor. That's the best way I'll describe it.
Okay.
Right? We do not like each other. He very clearly dislikes me. And even to this day, will talk very poorly about me. One thing that he never understood, and I don't know if he'll understand it until he's in a situation to do it with somebody else. I didn't like that he's on a team with OGs and everyone in the world, including Riot, are making it about him. Because in my opinion, the best way to bring along someone new, especially someone young, is to give them time to be their own person. We don't know what I don't know what Premi is going to be. You think this season I'm coming into this like, yo, Premi, you need to be Ospas? Hell no. You want to know the conversation I had this offseason with Cruz and Ban? We are this year going to improve because the two of you do better, or we're going to regress because the two of you are not getting better. I'm not blaming Premi for this year. As a matter of fact, my job is to develop Premi. Everyone in the world, all you people want to ask me about is Premi. How's Premi? How good is Premi? Is he next Ospas? Is he this? Is he that? What I do, I tell him the truth. I think you're fucking insane. I think you're really good. I think you can be that guy, but you're not that guy yet. You're not that guy yet. You want to know how you have to be? I'll give you a small example. I told Ban, I need you this offseason. I need you to spend time with Premi. Here are the things I need you to spend time. I want Premi to learn to be the type of player that Ban is. I want Premi to learn the game the way Cruz understands the game, because one day he's going to be, in my opinion, the IGL for Talon. You know how I know this? Because this was my plan with Blade for Electronic.
Wow.
I'm copying the same blueprint that me and Andre saw with Electronic. Why did Electronic and Simple not work out in Na'Vi? You guys already know now why. Electronic had to go because he was just tired of this bullshit. Dennis was tired. He was tired. And Blade, not going to talk about CS for too long. I'm just going to say Blade realizes the mistake he made by look what happened now. They said, you know what? I'm not dealing with this headache no more, bro. Now they have what? An international roster. Blade gets to cook with his guys doing his thing, not having to be beholden of a guy like Simple. I don't want Premi to become Simple. I don't want those headaches. I don't want him to be that person. Why do I want that for him? Why not have him be Blade? Why not have him be that type of player, a selfless, smart player first, and then all that skill, Ospa shit later? Right? Asuna didn't understand that most of the problems I had with him and his behavior had a lot to do with that. That over time, I can see that he became more of like, oh, this is
well-rounded
I'm the
person,
guy.
yeah.
No, fuck that, bro. It's not your time yet. You got Hiko. Bro, why do I want to be the guy when I got Hiko and Nitro? I got Nitro, who's the most decorated fucking IGL in North America. Why not just sit back and be like, yo, tell me everything, bro? Why not? Like, why? It's
I almost feel that's the Paper X thing too. Like they looking at Jing and stuff. I think the reason why Jing got so good is like it is just kind of like it is not about me kind of thing. Like you have to detach yourself from it. And I think the point that you make about like putting more onus on the other players is interesting, because I think naturally a lot of people's reaction to that would be like, that's not fair to put too much like stock on two other players and not like almost like Premi can get away with being a little bit shit in some instances because he's the new guy and he's the talent. Everybody likes him. But I think it's more like it comes from a position where you know that the other two players, like you can put that on them. And in fact, like people are talking about it a lot of just like how you are as a coach, like whether the players sign up to have you just sort of like in their faces almost just sort of talking about like, this is shit, let's do it this way. Like for some players, we mentioned this a bit last time too, like some players are just going to prefer that because you just get rid of all of the bullshit. You just see it as it is and you can have a bit more of a discussion about it. So yeah, I think for Premi, it's like, okay, this is your like first proper year as a professional. You need to work out what you like about it, what you do well on, what you struggle with. I can't tell you, like, you might just hate being on the stage after a while because you just get super tilted and irritated when things don't go your way. But the community loves to do this. I think of like Jane in Overwatch. I think of like Wahujin as well to a lesser extent in Valorant. And there'll be other instances of people coming through the scene. I can see a day where the community just hates Sliggy. You know what I mean? Because there seems to be content creators and people that come up that everybody loves. They adore this player. He's fantastic. With like Ye is the perfect example. Now it's so popular to just shit on this player. And that kind of thing happens all of the time where people can love Primi, love players like Jing. Eventually, it just becomes a case of like hating on them is the new thing to do. Like severely I don't like the way that like Primi does this or whatever. So I think having that freedom in the first year to go off with that, but the other players that have that more experience, you can be a little bit more like, for you, this is all you really need to do. Like, just keep this down and like, you have freedom to do other stuff, but I need you to nail this. Otherwise, the rest of the team starts to lose its trail.
The big example for that is Cruz. Cruz used to be Apex like pride and joy. Cruz now gets shit on by his own people. I'm not going to say names. I'm going to say friends, his own friends. High players that were on his teams would just shit talk him. He shouldn't be in the league. He's trash. He's this. He's that. Yo, replace this guy with that guy. All this shit, bro. The Thai community loves to shit on Cruz, bro. Loves to shit on Cruz. And what I found funny about that is, to your point, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when Jersha was a thing and they were like, you know, doing stuff, he was everyone's darling. And dude. I think for Primi, this is like the biggest thing that I'm trying to show him, because last year when he came, everybody was like Primi. So we needed to make it as comfortable as it can, right? Or as it can be for him. This year, it's buddy. It's great that everybody thinks you're the next Osboss. That's fucking awesome. Congratulations, you deserve it. But take a look at Cruz. They can turn on you just as quickly. You know what you should focus on? This. Get better at this. Don't worry about that. Focus on this. Be this, spend time with Ban to learn this. Your effort is much better used going in the direction of actually becoming the thing they say you are than enjoying the things that they say about you and letting that deter you or in any way distract you from actually accomplishing your fucking mission, which in our opinion is first, win a tournament, then win champs. I only have 2 goals for them. Last year, the goal was make champs because they were ninth. They were 3 and fucking whatever the fuck their record was. This year, I don't give a fuck about champs.
Yeah.
If we don't win, this is an abstract failure for me. That's a lot of pressure for Primi, but that's why I'm putting it on the OGs. I'm not putting it on Gov. He's too young. And it's not that I don't have things that Jit and Governor can work on. Absolutely. But if there's 2 people on our team that absolutely have to have that responsibility, is Ban and Cruz. Why? They're too fucking smart to do the shit that we did last year, which is we lost 3 5v3s in a fucking row. In a game.
He's never going to let him live this one down, bro. It was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
But there's no way guys that smart allow that to happen. This year, we are not going to do that again because now they know your ass is on the line, brother, if this happens. So now you need to have the leadership to make sure that these players don't make the mistake. Last year, it was me being the dickhead. This year, I want my guys to be the dickhead. Sorry.
Following along. Even the camera's invested. Like,
it's a camera that actually tracks you. It's actually fucking sick.
That's pretty sick.
It just straight up gave up on you, though.
It's
like shut the fuck up. Camera's shut the fuck up.
Yeah, AI said I had enough of this guy, bro. Yapping.
Basically,
that's the fun that picture alone.
Oh, that's like lucky, bro.
Yeah, bro. Homie's actually just
let's go, bro.
Flicking, bro. He's flicking.
So this is how you wait. Yeah. This is something else. This is
I don't know why it needs to be able to see your face at the same time.
But you brought up a good point though, and that's the pressure that some of these players can put onto themselves by reading some of these comments and stuff like that. I mean, that's what Leggy was saying that happened with Bleed. These players, they all qualified. It's not like they don't know how to play. But when Ye joined the fucking team, now you're under a microscope. You know what I mean?
And that to me was a mistake of the Bleed players, but this is ego. And so Pat Riley, who's a basketball coach, he used to be a basketball coach. Now he basically has been GM of the Miami Heat for 20 years. He wrote a book which was basically called The Disease of Me. right? And it's true. In my opinion, Bleed players talking about that in the way that they did is, in, again, my opinion, and from a coach's perspective, it tells me I don't want them around me. You know why? Because if I have Ye, or if, let's say we didn't, let's say Talon got Ospas, I replaced Governor for Ospas. You think for a second, if I'm Premi or Jit, I'm not going, this is fucking awesome. We got Ospas. He's going to get all the bullets. He's going to take all the heat. I just got to do my fucking job. Let that guy be the guy to win us games. Or if you're on a team with Can, that should be your job. Your job should be maximizing your role, playing your game to the best of your abilities for your team. You don't need to be the fucking hero. We got a hero on payroll. It's his fucking job to be that. It's his job to be that. I'm not going to put that on Premi, though, even though Premi has the talent and everybody says he's good enough. Why should our youngest player also be the person that has to carry the biggest load? When I got two OGs, I got Governor, I got Jit, that obviously need to basically fucking, hold their water. Right?
The frank side of it, too, is like, if they don't do that, they're gone. And if they're not...
Premi's not...
Yeah, it's also like, if it got to a point where just the whole team was dropped, let's say just say Talon are the ones that kicked out and everybody's a free agent, Premi would find another team easily, even 100%. If he's not. But
100%.
Like,
the other players, it would be harder.
The players of like, if you don't do this, not only are you potentially like likely to be dropped, it's going to be really hard for you to be picked up anywhere else, especially with everything you mentioned about tier 2.
And if we have the talent to do it now, we have to fucking do it now. There is no next year. By the way,
they're not playing for this year. They're playing for the next 5.
By the way,
nothing's guaranteed.
My contract is up. My contract is up at the end of this year. I may be gone, right?
Regardless of how the team does.
We have now. Don't fucking waste your time. Like, me and Jit had a small issue this year going into champs. Because I'm actually surprisingly hard on Jit now, because Jit went from being the like young one, the rookie, to then Premi came and he was the rookie. So now I'm like, Jit, you need to step it up, Chief. Like now there's a new baby in town, right?
Mm-hmm.
The grace period is gone. Now it's sink or swim.
Yeah. So I'll just say he had a little bit of a hard time now getting cooked in VOD reviews, Governor and Band got the ass whooping every day. Now it was Jit's turn. He didn't handle it very well, right? And I had a conversation with him. I was like, listen, if you don't like, and I had this conversation with Asuna too, to bring it all the way back. I had this conversation with Peter. If you don't like me, that's cool. But at the end of the day, we're here together. You might as well win now. If you want me gone, you're probably going to talk shit, which he did, to have me kicked at the end of the year, right? Which happened. Or we can have success and we can just win and take the best out of me that you can. And the stuff that you don't like, just make sure to avoid, or purposefully say, respectfully, yo, I don't want to hear this shit, blah, 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 blah. I had to have this conversation with Jit, like, yo, you need to speak up for yourself and say, if I'm too hard on you, I'm this and that, tell me. However, when I ask you to do this, I expect the shit to be done. If you can't, or if you make a mistake, just fucking own it. Don't make excuses. I don't got time for excuses, because back to the point I was making, my contract is done next year. I have 2 years with you. We are in year 1. This year's already over, basically. We go to champs. If we win champs, guess what? You think next year's going to be easy, bro? It's going to be harder to repeat. So I had to have these conversations with Jit, like straight up, like, boy, if you want me gone, that's cool. But guess what? My contract is right now for another year. You're going to see me for another year. You might as well get used to it. If there's things you don't like, address them. I'll fix them. But if you're going to talk to me about, bro, practice is too hard, we're scrimming too much, we're doing this, we're doing that, I don't want to fucking hear that shit. Do your job. Like, I legitimately had to have these conversations with young players, and they don't. I think it's jarring because most of them have never really had a job anyway. Mm-hmm. And now you're taking a passion and you turn it into a job. And that's such a hard thing for people to understand. And the thing that I think is weird is, if I have people that can help me win, it doesn't matter if I don't like you. Me and Cruz talked on this show. Like, we had an episode. Me and Cruz were not the biggest of fans. Me and Cruz, the first 6 months, did not like each other at all. And we both talked about that. Over time, we understood that the one thing we shared the most was that we wanted to win. And that ultimately was the reason why the relationship persevered. And now we are good friends.
Yeah.
Because you have to have like the come to Jesus moment at some point. And we did. And we understood that we want to win more than anything. What do I need to do for you to help you feel better, do better? And then he told me the same. And I said, I need this, this, and this. And he's like, all right, cool, let's do it. And then we did it. We've never had a problem since.
In my opinion, you shouldn't be in the league if you don't have that mindset, though. And a lot of more players need to think like that. Like, we're all here as competitors. We all want to win. Well, hopefully, right? Like, obviously, if there's someone on your team where you know that they don't want to fucking win, you're gonna like get rid of them. I mean, why would I play with some guy that's just sitting there basically paycheck stealing when I could get some kid who's hungry as fuck to win and win a tournament?
And
so
that's why we're here.
Contract, isn't it? Like, it's just, like, being that upfront with people is so important, of just being like we all want to play and we're all living the dream, but we also have expectations we put on each other. I think what you sort of mentioned around like the practice and stuff, to an extent, I sort of somewhat like agree with. Just the whole idea of like that it's easy to just hop on at somebody in particular and to like hit their confidence, but there has to be like a perspective shift. It's not you are the problem, it's us versus the problem. It's not us versus you. And I think that like that's just always good advice. And like, sure, like with any relationships, whether it's like partners or like in work and stuff, like it's hard to differentiate that a little bit. But like if you're in a team, that environment has to be set that way. Of just, which is kind of why, again, like the whole bleed stuff felt really inappropriate and frustrating. Like, I can understand Crazy Guy being frustrated at being like dropped in this situation, but like it always feels personal. Being fired from any job feels personal. Like for me not doing EMEA anymore, I wasn't fired, but I was basically ghosted. It's hard for me to not take that personally, and it could be to just they don't like me, but also at the same point, if they don't like me, that's nothing to do with me, right? I'm not going to change like the way that I approach stuff. If they want to get like they've got Jobby casting like an off-season event and stuff, and then they brought in Steel and people like that, I can't really look at that and go, that's not fair, right? Like it's like, all right, fair enough. You know, they got good people in, but like that took the longest while of just like it always feels very personal, but it's not. It's business, and like firing anybody from any job is pretty impersonal. Of just it's not a good fit, it doesn't work right now, we need to change stuff. But it's I understand why people would take that as a hit on their own like identity and stuff. So it is a bit of a case of like you have to separate the player from the person. And so when it comes to like VOD reviewing and talking about these things, like we need to do this less, like it's not an attack or affront onto them, it's as a player, I need you to do this more. And some players are a lot better. Like for young people, that is incredibly hard because they've been told how great they are probably for like a whole year leading up to it. And then you're suddenly like, you're actually not as good as you think you are.
Right.
There's a lot to work on. Always.
For JIT specifically, I can talk about it. I thought that there was a map that he had, let's just say at Champs, that's where the relationship like hit the peak, and then we had to like have a conversation, like a real conversation like this. He's just not used to me cooking him in VOD review because the truth is, I'm pretty happy with JIT most of the time. I could tell you 2 cases of where I said something to JIT and was pissed at JIT in my notes, and in VOD review, I'm like, blah, 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 because I take live notes, Baby Bay knows, and then I go back and I review it with the guys. And then he proved me wrong. He's like, yeah, but, and then his butts, I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. That actually makes a lot of sense. Oh, shit. Okay, cool. My bad. So I can tell you that in the season, when I'm cooking JIT, sometimes I was wrong. And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. I think for him, the lead up to Champs, and especially that one map at Champs, let's just say I eviscerated him because, in my opinion, he killed me. And I'm still not going to shy from that. He fucking killed us, right?
I remember I remember you telling me about this. Like,
because he did things that he doesn't normally do, and it is what it is. Maybe it's pressure, whatever, that's cool. That's
the kicker right there. stuff that he doesn't usually do. Because like you said, he might have amazing reasoning as to why he did it, and it's like, that's fine. The only issue is none of us can read your fucking mind.
Didn't do it in
We
practice.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's a good way of thinking. Now we know as a team how to deal with that. Because that's the thing with any players, notably duelists, where I know that like Baby Bay could go super crazy and do something ridiculously fucking stupid. And if I was the coach, I could be like, right, write a 3,000-word essay on why that play that you did was actually the best play, and you'd come back with a 6,000-word essay. Like, duelists especially can out-talk any shit situation they find themselves in. To say it's about, like, you're getting into their heads mentally, or you're playing for information. Like, fuck me.
Bro, that's Gov too. Me and Gov, I swear to God, we waste 20 minutes of every day arguing about that exactly. Where I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Why would you do this? Because they did this. Well, Hector, and then he puts on his professor coat. I'm gonna start calling him Professor Oak because like he always has this, bro. Me and Gov, I'm telling you now, if there's anyone that looked at it from the outside, I have a worse relationship with Governor than I have any other player I've ever coached at Valorant, for sure. Full stop. Why do me and Governor not have problems though, and why do we appreciate each other and we like each other? Simply put, because I think he understands that at the end of the day, I do genuinely want what's best for him. So much so, I don't know if I told you this, Ryan. I actually told him after playoffs that his job is on the line. I actually put the pressure on him and said, yo, Gov, after we lost to DRX, in my opinion, we lost to DRX because of Governor. Because he absolutely threw that series, right? He threw. And I had a heart-to-heart to him. And I said, bro, you're playing yourself out of the league. I can't have you continue to throw our games. We don't play enough games. I can't.
Yeah, dude.
That's the key thing.
If you're good enough to do these things, do them. But when you don't convert, you're going to be looked at like a jackass. And if you do this enough, you're going to be looked at as a problem. I had to have a real heart-to-heart with Gov, a real one-to-one. Obviously, he wasn't throwing anymore from that point. And I think he understood that the loss to DRX, where we basically threw and should have had the second seed in the league, it was his fault. By the way, we joke about it now, where I basically tell him, yo, you should get your check for DRX anytime they did something good. Yep. Like, bro, we were like, don't like, but
real quick, it's good to have a wake-up call like that, though, because for one, you said it yourself, you might not even be here in the future. You have 1 year left. Who brought Gov with? You did. Yeah. You did. This whole team could go tie in like a year. So
right,
all the imports might be gone, bro.
Yeah.
So like this really is like make it or break it. Like don't fuck around. Let's make the most of our time together.
The other side of it too is because you've already qualified for champs. That there's probably that part of his head that's like, I'm clean for the next year. Like I got the champs. Bro. That should be enough. It'd be interesting to go through the 16 teams that made champs and how many of them have made roster moves.
100%.
How many teams have won champs and made roster moves?
Right. We are not making changes.
Even if you fucking win.
Yeah, we should in theory have an advantage, right? Early on. Because why? We're not making any changes. But does that mean anything? Absolutely not.
Can't slack off.
I told Cruz and Band, you motherfuckers are going to have the worst off season of your lives. Here's what we're doing. Blah, 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 blah. Bro, by the way, they're practicing now. I'm in America, and I'm just like looking at the VOD reviewing with them, blah, 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 blah. But we're practicing now.
Yeah, it's October.
We should swap jobs. You should fucking help the TF2 Boomers deadlock team, which is what I'm doing now. Because that's on NA times, and then I can fucking watch a team like 100% in the morning.
Yeah, but like, dude, I think this type of honesty is very unusual and uncomfortable for people. But the truth is, it's why that 100 Thieves thing bothered me so much, because I feel like people think that they have all the time in the world. Time is the most valuable commodity we have as humans. It doesn't matter how rich I get. I can never buy it back.
Yep.
So if I'm going to spend all these fucking hours and these long days on Valorant, it's not so that we can be ass. And if that means we need to work harder and scrim more and drill more and practice more, then we're going to fucking do it. And if Jit or Primy don't fucking like it, then they already know. I've already told them, go to Dohoon's office and tell him to cut me. And when your value outweighs mine, they're going to do that. We already talked about Asuna having it done here. But at the end of the day, you talked about the social contract, which I think is the most mature way of thinking about it. Mm-hmm. we are all in it together regardless.
If you don't have that conversation early enough, it is so much harder to have it down the line.
It could be career ending too, right? Like, because if you don't take it serious when you're supposed to, and we've all seen this shit happen with many different players where they're in the league for 1 year and then they're fucking out and they never return. You don't even know what they do. They go back to fucking school or something. Like, you don't even know. You don't see them again.
Right.
But
and me and Cruz had that, and that's what caused the problem. Because Cruz is like, who the fuck is this asshole? Because, bro, I'm telling you, first day tryouts, this was like early October last year. I'm literally like, all right, guys, here's what we're going to run. Here's what we're going to do. Boom. Oh, shit, you made a mistake. Yo, bro, I don't need this. Yeah, but I don't really care about butts. Here's what we're going to do. I just want to see if you can follow directions and do it. And if you can, obviously, over time, blah, 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 blah. Players were like, wait, this is not how we play, bro. It's not how I play, bro. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Because what they didn't understand was, now you guys know, I was trying to run multiple comps, multiple roles. Like, I was trying to be as fluid as we were this year. This is what I was envisioning would help me in Pacific, because these teams are so fucking random anyway that, if they have VODs of your comps and you're just doing default comps, it's not that hard for them to like throw a curveball. That's
game plan, yeah.
So I try to be a step ahead of that. They had no idea. Cruz was fucking not happy with this shit. I did this shit day one. By the end of tryouts, this guy was like, man, fuck this guy, bro. Yeah. And I can understand people's discomfort with it, but I didn't have a lot of time. I had to take a 3-7 team, and I had a month tryout. I had to move from America in November, so I'm missing a month. I have to come to Thailand, play in this fucking Tier 2 tournament. I don't even have a team yet. And then all of a sudden, it's like, hey, guys, now you're in Korea. And it's like, how am I going to take a 3-7 team to champs or do anything in this amount of time when, like,
following the same formula as everybody else?
But also,
and they were not vibing, bro. That's why like 2 Thai players quit. Garnett and Patty were like, man, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter now. He's not part of the org anymore. But like, they quit. They basically were like, man, F this guy. I'm not playing for this guy. And I totally understand it. But I just can't have a 3-7 team because unlike some people in esports, I don't have job security. Right? We can see a GM.
Not a lot of us do.
Bro, there's a VP of esports that basically just said, hey, man, it took 3 years for this to happen, but we finally got it done. Right, in that announcement with Zander. And I'm just like, yeah, bitch, you had 3 years. I didn't. That's why I wanted to do it then, because I was trying to win then.
I think
like some people don't have 3 years. They don't realize that.
Something Ryan just said kind of is like a good summary of how I see where you're at now, Hector, with these sort of things that you've talked about over the years about like kind of accountability and people having ownership. And sorry to interject. We can cut the producer.
No, please. No, please.
But
continue.
You are not good at having the macro conversation around what the fuck is happening. Like what Ryan just said, like kind of being able to supersede this ego thing, and nobody really can. But you were, from day one, you're just living the life in terms of the accountability and the work, in terms of taking ownership for what you can take ownership of, pointing out what they need to be accountable for. And eventually, if given the right amount of time and people can get just past the edge of their ego a little bit, they'll see that you are looking out for their best interests. Because you just described Governor on what the Steve arc in terms of my history with you before we became as close as we are, is there was multiple times it's like, this guy can't why is he talking to me like this? I'm doing this for like esports. None of us are making any real money here, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, like every time there was an opportunity to advance my career or to do something interesting, even though the last conversation you and me had months back might have been a fuck you, it was, he's the best guy for this. I'm going to tell him that and make this work. And that's, now you and me are like family. So we have these deeper conversations about it. And we're 30-something-year-old men. So it's another level of maturity. But all the things you guys are talking about and like mentioning that these things are like things attitudes you should have as a professional esports athlete, I don't think these are things most humans even unlock for themselves most of the time, let alone your average 18-year-old esports players. So, I mean, anybody who is willing to put in the work and collaborate, I think Cruz is a specific exception, is that he was able to see past that much earlier on and see the benefit of how extreme your ownership for these things is. And I'm getting kind of ranty about it, but the point being is it's like you are the sink and swim of that sort of thing. And I think the longer people see how you put your money where your mouth is and stand up for the things that you stand for, the results kind of speak for themselves. I don't think you've done bad by anyone who has ever given you the chance.
And also, what would you rather have? Would you rather have somebody that actually gives you a fucking chance because they care about you and they're willing to invest their time into you and try to make the best thing, the best product that you possibly can? Or would you rather have a fucking snake just sit there and all of a sudden you're not a part of anything, you're fucking gone, and you're out of the league and you don't even know why? You know what I mean? Oh, what the fuck did I do? Did I do this wrong? Like, you don't even know why, and you might not ever find out why.
We talked about
you're lucky if you find out from somebody else.
This is me in a nutshell, because I guess I wasn't frank with people before, and I'm like essentially just a bit of a uppity cunt, honestly, when it comes to like watching other talent. Like, even for example, like with you, Baby Bay, I think it was at Shanghai where it was like Fnatic were playing. It was on Breeze, and you kept going on about like Fnatic getting the op, like they need to get the op, and I think you saw this like 3 or 4 rounds in a row, and I just kept saying like he's not wrong, but like he's said it way too often now. Like it's almost getting like stuck in your head, and it's like that's not me taking a swipe at you as a caster, right? That's just me saying what I like. For me, I think I just say stuff, and I kind of like say it, and then my gut instinct is like, do I agree with that? Do I resonate with that at all? Or is that just like a throwaway comment? You know what I mean? Where it's kind of like you'll say something and go, actually, like, I want to challenge that a bit more. Because I was, like, terrified of, like, streaming a watch party and stuff like China, especially early on. Because I was like, what if people work out that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about? And at the end of it, I was like, I want people to argue with me as much as possible. Because I either know that, like, they argue with me and I go, oh, actually, you're right, my bad. Like, that you're completely right on this. Or they say something and I go, you're fucking stupid. The reason why I think this is X, Y, and Z. And before I even realized it, like I've actually like augmented my own like opinion, and I've structured it like I can argue for what I feel. And now I feel like, okay, I actually have like things that I stand for now. Whereas when I was Talon, I think I was just a little bit like flaky. I'd have like opinions of just how things were done, but I wouldn't say them because I didn't want to cause conflict. I didn't. But honestly, I think if I respecting myself and the other people more, I would just tell them outright of like, I think we can do it this way and stuff like that. Like, I think I was too afraid of like hurting people.
Yeah.
And because I kept shit to myself or said it to other people personally, as soon as it gets out that, oh, Ryan's like shit talking you behind your back kind of thing, like it's done, right? And it never comes across that way realistically. It's just I don't think it should be done this way, and I'll be talking to somebody, and then it just sort of turns into this whole like, oh, Ryan didn't say anything about this, right? Like that's my biggest issue, just as a young adult. I think that I've had to kind of deal with growing up. Of just if there's something that I dislike, I need to stop pussyfooting around it in like team environments and stuff, and just be like, I don't agree with this. You might disagree with me, in which case that's fine, but I just need to express this because if I don't, I'm just going to vent to somebody, and it's going to come across the wrong way.
Or even if you don't vent, you might just explode one day, right? And this happens. Yeah. This totally happens. There's like those scrims that you have, or even in a match. Hopefully, never in a match. It's never happened to me in a match, but there's times where like you just had enough, bro. You're sick of that one guy's shit. Why does this guy keep fucking overpeaking this thing every single time? Instead, like I think people are so afraid of the negative connotation around conflict that they're scared to actually say what's on their mind. Kind of like what you just said. And
it's like the EA focus on your own side. Yeah. That still rings like through everybody's ears when they think about EA. 2 or 3 years after that clip was like leaked, and it wasn't even like a public clip, right?
Yeah.
It's just like if he has that discussion earlier, like for him to say that, it would have suggested that that's something that's consistently happened.
100%.
But like if that's something that happens early, just saying after the scrim, like, I understand that you're trying to help, but just like, let me focus on my own stuff, you focus on yours. If I do it wrong, let's talk about it in VOD review. But if you just sit and let that sit, then you come out with those little snippy little comments. And it's like, the best way that I think of it is like, if you have a player like Zelsis who's a vibe merchant, if Zelsis loses his shit in a scrim or a practice, he is no longer the vibe merchant. But like, he can't earn that back. Like, you could be a nice guy, but as soon as you piss somebody off, like, that respect and that reputation has gone. right? And it takes a while for people, if at all, to climb back up in people's like rankings, right? So it's such a difficult thing of like, if you're a positive person, you have to be that all the time. If you're somebody like Kung Kung that has all that energy, you have to be like that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, like you don't have an off day with that kind of shit. And I think like that's the important thing, because like all it takes is like Primy to have one bad performance or one bad, like even now, like I'm thinking of Narrate going to Sentinels, and there was the clip where he said probably a word that he shouldn't say, even like in the broadcast, because they went to play a comms and he said something that like a lot of people would say that you probably shouldn't say, basically Papega but worse. And it's a little bit like, do you as Sentinels have that conversation and just be like, I know that it's like private comms, but like we share our comms, like you need to not say words like that anymore, because like you now represent Sentinels. If you do things properly, you could be like Tens, where you're just completely marketable, you can do everything. If you don't do that, then it's going to be hard to do anything with you realistically. But like the earlier you have that conversation, the better. But let's say we get like 3-4 months into the scene and the rate is just Sentinels can't use comm videos because he's just losing his shit every single round.
Right.
That conversation becomes a lot harder to have, right? So just getting ahead of things is like super important. I'm not saying that's a big issue, but that's like the only one that springs to mind is like the Sentinels actually do anything about that instance.
Yeah. So that's a good point, because technically, because for branding purposes and all that stuff,
you would have to. Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head there. What I will say though about that topic specifically is, you're not the vibe merchant anymore. That happened to Governor. So we talked about it on the show. We had all the players. Governor and Band blew up. It was a big thing. Governor was always our vibe merchant, 100%. He was awesome at it, and he used. I mean, you can even still see in Talon's content when we do our comms, he's always the positive one. Bro, we were down 12-0 to PRX, and he's still laughing, trying to get everybody up. Like, but he used that same word. He called that to Band in the middle of practice. Because I don't remember what Band said. Band said something. And, he was like, "Are you ridiculous?" Like, what the? And he just went off.
Are you ridiculous?
Yeah. He,
I wonder what he said.
And let's just say that, like, not only do we have to cancel practice that day, like, it got real bad. They had to talk it out. I had to talk it out. It got real. But he was no longer looked at as the vibes merchant. As a matter of fact, luckily, we don't need a vibe merchant, because, like, most of us are very professional and, blah, blah, blah. And Primy's going to find his own. But that, I don't want to say it took it away, but it definitely left an impression.
Even like finding out Santa's not real. It just like it's not that it's like a lie as such. It's more that it's a smoke and mirrors a little bit, because nobody can be perfectly chill all of the time. Like the fact that Zelsis is able to do it is one thing. It might even be the case of like there's some scrims or officials where Zelsis just completely loses his cool. But like the team want to build him up as like, this is what you're good at. Like we almost need you to be that for us. Like there's going to be times where you're not able to, and that's fine. We'll lift the heavy load if we need to. But like that feels like that's something that's really important to Sentinels, is like team psyche. It's just that we have that person that like we can go to if we need to like increase the attitude. But I also remember like Fnatic lock-in final against Loud when they were 9-3 down on Icebox. I think Leo was saying like, guys, I'm like really nervous. I'm like shaking and stuff like that. And that's Leo. He's probably the most like ice cold player that has ever existed in this game. And like him to be able to just be like, guys, I'm not that at the moment, I think genuinely helped him so much, because it just, I think he was a bit like, I can't be that player that you need me to be. Yeah. The rest of the team were like, that's fine. Like, honestly, just do your best. Like, just chill. And I think just then he was able to just get it out of his system.
I have another story, actually, and it's around Fnatic as well. I think Boaster does a really, really good job of what you just said right now, specifically, to basically pick up that type of slack when bad stuff is happening. Boaster told me on Alpha Year's tryout, he was absolutely shitting the fucking bed, like playing horrendously. But all the Fnatic guys knew they were already going to pick him up. You know what I mean? They already knew they were going to pick him up. but they still just went through the trial process anyway. And I think at some point in the scrim, like Alphayear was playing like such a noob or such a bot. Like he was playing so scared. I forgot what Boaster was telling me. But Boaster literally paused the scrim, went like with a one-on-one with him, like dragged him on Discord or whatever, and was like, yo, bro, I can tell you're nervous. Don't even fucking worry about it. I want you to just play it however you would normally play it, like when you were on your old team or in ranked, whatever it may be. And lo and behold, bro, after that moment, when Boaster told him that, this guy just started popping the fuck off and he started dropping those 30 bombs that they knew he could drop, right? So it matters. Like, it definitely matters to have the rest of the team pick up the slack when even you can't perform in whatever type of aspect it is. And there's many type of ones, right? Like we were talking about Zelsis being the comms guy, you know? And if you actually do watch like the Sen stuff, when he is pretty quiet up there on the stage, they tend to be pretty like down in general. And then when you see the comeback start happening from like a clutch that somebody had or something, then it'll pick back up again. But it's important that the rest of your team has your back in those moments to like ground you and bring you back and be like, yo, don't worry, we got you, bro. And then all of a sudden you might start popping off and performing again.
Yeah, I mean, that's good leadership. What you're talking about is good leadership by him and the ability to recognize it. I think everyone has to deal with it their own way. I know with Primi, we had a situation like this also. I don't think there's a good way. I'll just say this. I don't think there's like a manual on that interpersonal communication amongst players and teams. But I will say that most often, if you're just honest about it, like, guys, I don't feel it today, or I'm doing this today. Like, I actually told Cruz this as an example. If you're not hitting a shot, who gives a fuck? That means every time Primi's on a Bulldog or Gov's on a Bulldog, you give him your AK. You swap. If you don't feel, even if you have util, if you feel like you're just not going to trade, just fucking knife out and jump first. This is shit that we do with Markelov and CS.
Yeah.
It looks dumb, feels dumb, but at the end of the day, it's if that guy goes +1 and can turn that into +2.
Isn't there literally
I don't give a
a silver
fuck.
voice line that's the same, where it's like there are other ways to be useful, and it's just like it's literally in the game as a voice line.
So many aspects in the game.
I talked about that, how I gave Asuna and Dicey the book of the Art of War because they were getting so frustrated that they weren't getting all these kills and like that they weren't playing well, but we were still winning. And it was like a lot of players don't realize that you can do so much more to influence a game than just pop off. Sometimes it's recognizing if your team is on one and just going, you know what I'm going to do? I'll just go first. Don't even. Like, it's weird because of the roles. So in CS, it's a lot easier, right? So Markelov could do that. I gave examples of like how he would do that also on that show when I talked about this. But like, it's obviously weirder because if Cruz is playing Sova and he has drone and he has dart and he does this, guess what people are going to say? What the fuck is he doing?
What an idiot.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's important for people to understand sometimes that, or players, that you can't do things worried about how you're going to look. Because often when you start doing that, that's when you look worse.
Yeah, and you fall off hard, bro.
Yeah.
You can really fall off hard.
Do everything you can to win that game, that map, that whatever.
That's what Sinatra is so fucking good at, man. Like, when people ask me, like, who's my favorite, like, player to play with on a team, like, I know there's a lot of stigma out about Sinatra, but I'm not going to lie. This fucking
I think Jay's
kid,
amazing.
This kid could identify in any game. Get fucking Deadlock. Fucking put him in Overwatch. Put him in Valorant. Any game he plays, he can identify what the win condition is. And like you said, it doesn't have to just be fucking aim. It could be like the nitty gritty shit. Oh, he jump peeks a certain angle, bro.
Right.
Because he knows that this opera is going to whiff the fucking shot. And now his team has all the space and they could do like a mid to B on fucking split or something. Like, it could be anything, bro. Like, he knows how to identify important fucking things like that. It could even be, because like we were talking about, there's a lot of ways to win. It could even be, oh, let's fucking run at this one guy because he can't hold this shit. You know?
Right.
Based off of the rounds that you played. It could be based off a pistol. Yo, this guy whiffed like 5 shots on me. He should have killed me. Let's run at this fucking guy. Let's just run at this guy.
That's the hardest thing is for players, for players to be who they are openly because everyone is trying to like keep their job or impress or whatever. And then the other is being so comfortable and sure of yourself that you make a call. That's another thing. Some people are like, damn, like I think he's there, but I don't know. It's like, then say it. Because like some small example, if you look at somebody in VOD review, when they rotate, they half rotate, then they go back, and then you see them go again, and you're just like, what the fuck are you doing here? It's like, oh man, I feel like I should. It's like, make a decision.
100%.
Yeah.
Dude,
That's such a deadlock thing.
Make a decision.
Yes.
And then if you're wrong, identify post when the result happens. Okay, this might mean this. This is why I was wrong. Or in practice later on, go, yo, what do I do in this halfway situation? I'm always going to choose this first. What do you think? Should I? Instead, they fucking look like morons doing this.
Yes.
And it's like, guys, be decisive first. But that's a confidence. That's an internal thing that people have to like.
Yeah, just fucking call intent. That's all it is. That's all, literally just anybody in any game. If you're playing Valorant, if you're playing Deadlock, just call what you are doing. Because then if what you're doing doesn't sit well with the rest of the team, they will tell you. If they want to, like in Deadlock, for example, if people want to go for a team fight on one of the lanes and you want to go farm, if you say, hey, I'm going to go farm, and they say nothing, and then they die in a team fight, and then they go, what the fuck, why were you not with us? Then you're like, I said it. Nobody said shit. That's not me anymore.
That's the classic, bro.
It's like, I'm going to go farm. No. Let's go, like, fight for it. Let's go fight mid-boss kind of thing. And it's the same with Valorant. Of like, I'm going to go do this. No, I need you to do that. Like, it's so much better where it's just, let's do this. Let's do that. As opposed to, should we try and go A? Yeah, because then everybody either looks in the minimap or they even just look off screen because they have to think. But if you go, let's go A, if you don't agree with that call, it's much easier for you to go, no. Let's wait. Let's just chill.
And this is also something that specifically, if you break down breach players, this is something that is so important to have as your breach player. You cannot have your breach player be the guy that's like, oh, I can flash for you. Oh, I have a flash. I have a flash.
Just fine.
And just waiting.
It's so funny.
It's like, no, bro.
Simon.
Like,
Simon was literally like, I'm team flashing. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yes.
Like,
yes, that's how
I
you
team
need to play.
You, I can either be slower, but it's also like, you need to be faster. Because I'm doing this right. You need to work on my timing, not me on yours.
Exactly, because as the flash player, you see it. You know your utility the best. Like, I don't care what anybody says. For the most part, you're in the fucking league. You're on a specific role. You should know how to play your role the best on your team. Like it should be like that, right?
Fair,
or at least you need to have the confidence that you know the best on your role, right?
Yeah, so, unless you're banned. That's just Forsaken, especially.
Yeah, sure.
Right, those are
because they
rare ones.
Yeah.
Rare ones.
But regardless, your breach player, which breach is gonna win when it comes down to it? The breach that's like, yo, I can flash for you, or the one that's like, I'm flashing, peak, peak now, go.
100%.
Because this game truly does. It can literally come down to milliseconds. Yeah. It can literally come down to it, and whether that's to beat a rotation, whether that's getting extra time on the bomb, extra time on the retake, whatever the fuck it may be. You know what I mean? It really comes down to it at the nitty gritty when you're at the highest level. So,
but oftentimes it's just confidence. You have to be secure enough. I think some people are just afraid of being wrong, or they just don't want to look stupid. So they just don't say, and then it's worse. I think I see that more with young players. And I think that's why older players are often like better at macro. It's because you understand. It's because you lose all that like second guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're young, it's like,
you play to not lose instead of playing to win.
Yeah.
That's the biggest difference. It's the whole like Batman leap of faith scene from Dark Knight Rises, right? Like for you to make the right kind of gambles and the right kind of decisions, it has to be all in. You hesitate for a second, it's done.
Right. For those that don't know, that's when he gets out of the cave. Excellent movie.
Yeah. Well, I think confidence is a good segue to bring it back a little bit because we're reaching like the end of our time limit. How confident are you, Ryan, with, I believe, what is it, Prisa? How do I say their name?
Prisa.
Prisa?
SPG.
Yeah. How confident are you in SPG going into this next year? Do you think they're going to be able to like really combat like a team like EDG who just like big bros everybody, or where would you put them in terms of the standings with the rest of the Chinese teams right now?
It's tricky. I didn't really get to watch that much of like Pacific Ascension, but we have scrimmed Sim Prisa not only when we were on Attack and Sol Esports, but we also played a Taiwan Hong Kong team with like a mix of players. I'd say that like they were always like a strong, solid team. I don't know how I kind of feel about some of the teams that were in Ascension for Pacific. It's just such a diverse region, and like
it was kind of crazy, dude.
Yeah, I mean it was a fantastic like tournament from the bits that I saw, but you know, like you've got your full sense, you've got Boom, Riddle Order. Riddle is a crazy story realistically because I think they just came through
Premier.
Yeah. So,
but they are. I thought they were.
And also, Soldam is like he's like a Twitter legend, bro. Like this guy had some of the best Jet plays, bro. When I was playing Jet, I would actually look at his shit and like be like, "Wow, that's what I can do." And then I would do it in official. Your team, bro, to 100 teams.
I know, bro. Unlucky, bro.
I would watch this guy's fucking montages. It's cool to see him still playing, but
yeah.
What? Okay, so did you? So you didn't get to watch much of that then. But what about like Boom? Like
them being that was by far, in my opinion, the best. That is the best series of Valorant I've ever watched.
Yeah.
What I'll tell you briefly is the amount of heart that Boom had that whole tournament, because they were up and down, they were down, they came back.
They're in the league now. So.
They were down 2 games. Every map they showed so much heart and resilience. It was so impressive. So, they were up 11-7, and then they just started throwing and doing dumb shit. And then Prisa also was throwing. It was so bad. That bind was a shit show for both teams.
But
Prisa coming back 11-7 was crazy. It is by far, I will tell everybody this. I said it end of the last show. I'm going to say it again. If you've never watched that series, you absolutely should spend hours, even if it's like 1 map a day, but watch it, because that series is by far the best series I've ever seen in Valorant.
Also very well casted.
Nice.
Like
I always listen to things on mute, but I don't know. I'll take your opinion on that.
He only watches my casting, bro. He only watches my casting. He's loyal.
Yeah. I mean, I'm always going to advocate for talent that isn't really part of the tier 1 scene. Either they used to be or they're not as much anymore.
For sure.
I love underdogs, bro.
I'm very much like for that. So I think those guys did a really good job. And at the very least, if they don't do Pacific next year, if there is an English language feed for China, I think those guys for sure would be really good additions.
But amazing series.
Yeah.
So good.
So it was my bad, by the way. I meant to say Lai Gaming when I was asking you.
XLG.
I meant to talk about how you think that they're gonna. I got them confused, but I'm glad we talked about the
SPG. Yeah,
I'm
SPG.
glad we talked about SPG anyway.
I mean, we'll talk about that. But let's just say it's gonna be weird this year with the collaboration between, SPG and Anyways.
The VOD stuff.
VOD
sharing.
Anyways.
So how do you think Lai or XLG are gonna match up against the Chinese team since they ascended up?
Tricky.
Do you think that Rarga is gonna pop the fuck off like he was? Because like this guy had some crazy dude. He had a series against Chosen Click Gaming, and obviously I don't know who Chosen Click Gaming are, but like just looking at this shit, bro. I'm just gonna link this. Like this is the type of numbers this guy's dropping.
I
mean, like you think he could like emulate this actually, or do you think now that he doesn't have Crystal as that initiator,
plus right? I remember.
He said, "Holy shit!"
Off, bro.
He said, "Holy shit!"
I remember this.
So, do you think he's gonna have the same success without having Crystal?
Potentially. It kind of depends on like the players overall. So I think for Rare Atom and XLG being the top 2 teams is no surprise, realistically. I think both teams were put together really nicely. CCG was quite surprising. I think Maple was like the most paid player in tier 2 in China, which is kind of crazy. But then you watch him, he is the man that does it all. Like he was playing all sorts of stuff. He was calming everything. He was IGLing. He was also pissing off Dimasic. There was a clip where Dimasic squared up to him on stage, which is both hilarious and tragic at the same time. It's just like, how have we got... I was watching, I was like, how have we got to this point? Like, what the fuck am I watching? This whole event is just... But it's also... You know, when Boaster got a lot of flack by saying, like, the teams that went to Madrid, like, he feels that he'd beat them all. I fully understand that mindset, like, for sure, because some of the teams that went to Ascension, namely, like, Keep Best, and I can't remember the name of the other one. I think it was QJC. They were the two teams that eliminated us from, like, China Tier 2. And then watching them kind of, like, shit the bed. It's a weird one because you don't want them to do well because they beat you and you feel better. But you also don't want them to just bomb out because they beat you. And so it sort of suggests that you got destroyed by a team that's getting bodied by everybody else. Right. So, yeah, it was kind of like, I was enjoying watching the teams and like seeing all of the new faces, all like old names. But it was also kind of frustrating because I was like, man, if we just had a bit more time, we would be here. And like, I think we would have like potentially been a top 4 team. But like for Rare Atom, it's unfortunate they didn't qualify again. Especially considering the fact that they played up against XLG twice already that tournament. And let me just double check that I'm right. They beat XLG twice and had lost in the grand final.
Yeah, and they were good. We scrimmed them a lot this year.
Rare Atom were great. Also, the other side of it, no man, the duelist that they picked up, I feel like I was this close to getting him to join us because I knew him because he was in Polaris, because he's like British Hong Kong. Technically, like he's Welsh as well. Like he's gone back to uni, I think, and that's half an hour away from where I live in Bristol. So it's really funny that sort of came to be. But he was a really good player, really good duelist. Again, like great vibes and stuff. But I think he went over to China to trial for some of the like teams like Nova and stuff, like around Master Shanghai. And then we were like, could you maybe join us? He's like, maybe. And then we ceased operations, and then he went to Rare Atom. So, like the team that they put together as well, who was the other player that they had for that event? The Fraying was unbelievable. That whole event. Yeah. So, like, I'm glad that, like, he's got picked up fairly quickly from the sounds of it, like, for sources. Yeah, I just think that, like, Tier 2 for China is just a bit of a weird one because it's not the same as the other regions. It's like its own, like, big open qualifiers. It's kind of cool in a way, the China Nationals thing, because you have, like, the streaming events. So Bilibili will have an event, Douyu will have an event, Douyin will have an event. All of these, like, different websites and streaming services will have their own tournaments. But then you also have teams qualify through collegiate. You have teams qualify through LAN cafe events. And various other tournaments all kind of go into this one thing, which is really cool. But it means that you are just playing tournament after tournament after tournament after, like, just so many games, which is weird when the rest of the world, people are complaining that there's not enough games, and then China's just its own thing. But China is its own thing, just sums up China in any esport, right? It's a bit of a crazy one.
Yeah, I think that's a...
But they have some of the coolest teams. I think, like DRG last year, or sorry, JDG last year, fucking awesome.
Even Trace
I thought was so good, so organized. And I still think FPX has the highest ceiling. It's just,
yeah, I agree.
Fuck, man, shit happened.
Yo, like, I wonder.
China's so good, bro.
I would love to find out if EDG were influenced at all by like watching Trace win and beat like Lev and all this shit, to like fuel them up and be like, yo, we can actually do this shit.
Yeah.
I wonder if that
all the time, and they just beat Leviatan. Like, we're winning this event,
dude. Right? I really wonder if they if that was like a big thing in their brain where like,
no, for sure, the confidence thing when they beat Lev, I'm sure they were like, oh, we could win this tournament now.
Yeah,
that's the trigger for sure.
I think it was them beating Vapor X. I think that's what did it for EDG.
Yeah, of course.
Just like
actually,
they got that monkey off their shoulder.
Monkey,
yes, definitely.
Yeah.
But
I said for all of the Chinese teams in groups, it's like they're all therapy. Like for FBX, they have to beat like Heretics and Gen G, the two teams. Trace like have all of these other teams like Leviatan to deal with, but also like Vitality that can also like sort of shock and surprise. Obviously Talon as well. Like a lot of teams that are just generally dark horses. So for Trace to do well, it would have to be a crazy event. And then obviously EDG with G2 and Paper X in their group.
Yeah. Do you agree with me that this is the most parity in any tournament that has ever we've ever played in?
Is in like closest?
Yeah.
Like, I'd say so.
It was the most even. Like I feel like 16 teams could have potentially won that tournament, which I don't think I've ever said ever.
Yeah, I'm hopeful for the future, especially like I think the only disparity was China, just Bilibili. Like if JDG was there, I'd be like, absolutely,
right. Yeah.
Like Bilibili was
sure.
the only one that sort of felt like, okay, yeah, you're behind everybody else. And
Yeah,
like
I agree with that.
they had a lot of good structure and stuff with how they were playing with Bale throughout the year. But as soon as they went to champs, it was just back to YZ, go kill. And it's like, this doesn't work. It hasn't worked all year, realistically. YZ looks best when he has a bit more support. This is just deathmatching. And it didn't work. And you're up against Fnatic and Crew, who have some good structure. Yeah, there's only so much that you can realistically do. But they gave it a good go.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good spot to end on, honestly. It was good. China tier 2 is crazy, bro. The whole region, bro. The whole region.
Oh, man, I've never felt more out of my depth than trying to do a map veto in Mandarin. It is terrifying. Even like the Chinese players are like, hold on, what's floating city? Like, that's it? I don't know. Oh, you're gonna pick fucking fracture by accident? Like, what's going on? But yeah, I learned a lot from doing it, and honestly, I'm just the kind of person that's like, I just want to get stuck in. Like, if I feel out of my depth, that's good because it means I'm switched on and I care and I'm learning. I'm like, whatever. I'm just complacent. I'm not learning shit, and that's, I think, again, kind of where I went wrong with talent. That as soon as I kind of got to the level where I was doing like champs, I was a bit like, I wasn't thinking, how do I improve to get better and keep my place? I was just terrified that like people were just going to overtake me, which they did. I spent more time worrying and working, and kind of like Frost was saying, you only get a short moment. All of the talent, all of the tier 1 players that are coming up that I'm excited to watch, like the hard work starts now. Everything else was leading up to this, and you got to make sure that you hit it. Otherwise, you might have a really short esports career, and there's a fair few of those at the moment too.
Yep, and people have a hard time because we are all heroes of our own story. We never think it can be us.
Yeah.
So, but you know,
I don't think any of us thought that we'd end up here.
Life teaches you, right? Oh, I certainly didn't. Trust. I've had more failure than success, and I've had a lot of championships. Unlucky.
All right, man. Thanks again for coming, bro. We really appreciate it. And yeah, we're going to have you back again, dude.
Our
for sure.
first
You're going to have to run it
repeat guest, bro.
back. Yep.
I know.
Literally.
I appreciate all of the love and stuff in the comments as well. It's just
Always,
nice
bro.
to talk shop more than like general news as well.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff too that like people don't know about at all. Literally at all. And also we get to know a lot more about you personally. Like I didn't know I didn't know that like, you know, you got ghosted from EMEA and all this stuff, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's one of those ones where it's kind of like, I'm just going to echo what I remember Pansy saying like in 2020, like esports owes you nothing. And like EMEA doesn't owe me anything. I had some great like years doing it. And like, if I'm not good enough, that's fine. I would have preferred to have known, like, kind of like we were saying, like, I would prefer somebody to be like, you're shit. Like, you don't, like, you're really bad, like, presence, your voice isn't good for casting. Like, I'd prefer somebody to be that frank, but also I think, like...
Yeah, because you know what to work on. Trust.
Yeah. But also I understand, like, nobody's got the time to be doing that. And also it's potentially
people are afraid of conflict. They don't care enough. They just rather say, fuck you.
It's business. Basically. It's just like, it doesn't suit.
Yeah. But if China does do English stuff, you definitely should be their first.
Yeah, I'd love to do it, but I hope that they do it. I mean, that's a whole other discussion as well, where it's kind of like, I know that Riot and Leofari said that they want to do it. It wouldn't surprise me if it never comes to pass, because it's like, if they do it, they're losing money off it. They can't put sponsors on it for various like reasons and laws. And also, you look at the LPL. At English broadcast stopped. Now it's intermittent a couple of times. So I hope that they do it. I don't know who would be doing it. Maybe it's Riot through like Striker and stuff in Dublin, or their Seattle side, like the production suites that they have there, or another TO. But like I said, the TO can't really make money off of it other than like the bid that they would put through right to Riot, because you can't put sponsors on it. Whereas like Knights and stuff in America, you could put sponsors on that and make money through that way, and you're making a profit off of that. So
yeah.
Because people keep asking me if there's going to be one. It's like, they've said that, but like whether that actually comes to pass is a whole other story. If it doesn't happen this year, I'd really not be sure if they would do it at all. Like, China winning champion should be enough of a spur to push people in that direction to do it. this last year. I'm not surprised that it wasn't really thought of, because first year of China, they're also doing an international event there.
I agree.
China's only focused on Chinese players and Chinese fans.
Yeah.
Everything else is an extra. So, it would be cool. I think it would be great, especially for like talent as well. Not only myself, but like other tier 2 talent. That there's only so many slots for doing Americas or Pacific or EMEA. Like I think of like EMEA, especially like there's people like Pavlos, like Lofar's not really been on a broadcast for a while, right? Like, and the half a dozen people that were working in Americas that don't do it anymore, like it's just part of the lifespan. But if there's other opportunities to do other regions, same with like League, right? A lot of great casters have come through the LPL and now doing Worlds at the moment, like Dagda. Be cool to see that be a path for other people as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I hope that happens, bro, and I hope you get
Me
that
too.
opportunity, because that would be fire. And you
And
actually
even if it
know everything
doesn't,
about the fucking
the
scene,
content
bro.
you're still doing around, it's pretty valuable. I keep trying to tell people, like, I won't go too deep into this rabbit hole, but the amount of players that don't know, the amount of players that don't watch other regions' games, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. I think it's more like how dismissive they can be too. Like,
that
people are just thought that China was just a tier 2 region. First of all, glad they shut them up. Like, Christ.
Oh yeah, bro.
But also just to like, some of the players might not be there yet. Like, I liked Simon a lot from playing and scrimming against him. I didn't expect that he would just go into a team like EDG and just be the difference maker for them.
Fair.
So it makes me wonder, like,
Same.
this
I didn't
year,
either.
some of the signings, especially some of the smaller names, which ones are going to be defining factors for their team's success before we've even like realized.
And if I'm lucky, it's Ban and Cruz. Not pretty.
If I'm lucky.
If I'm lucky.
Ryan, thank you as well for showing up again. The first returning guest. We said it already before, but we're gonna say it again, bro. You're our dog, bro. We appreciate you a lot, and yeah.
China #1, bro.
China number
said
1.
it.
Literally.
In the
Literally.
future is here. I can't believe that I said next year was going to be an all China Grand Final in Champ. So I was partway right a year earlier. So I'll take that. I'll take that as a win.
Genius, bro. You're a
Respect.
genius. Actually. All right, man. All right, bro. So starting with 100 Thieves, man. We already talked about it a little bit with the Ryan, but they picked up Zander. It's finally happening. How do you think they're gonna perform with this roster? Do you think it's better? I don't know if Zander is better than Bang.
I saw your NRG, and they basically said that it was a 1-to-1, and I disagree. I think Zander, if Xander's going to IGL, he's more valuable. If Zander is going to have more of a role like that, I think, sure, you can say he's better in that respect.
Mhm.
But if it's just to play smokes, I don't necessarily think it's a 1-to-1. I think Bang is a better smokes player. And specifically, I think mechanically, I think he's also better. This is no shot to Zander. I think Zander
He's still good, yeah.
has more value in other ways that can make him like I value Zander more than Bang. But it's like Jit Boys is just a smokes player. Right? So it's like if Scary was a IGL as smoke. So technically you have to value Scary more. Why don't I make the move? Simply because one's younger, potential, blah, 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 blah. But if you think of it in this way, I don't think it's a 1-to-1. I actually disagreed with that. Do I think they're going to be fine? I think the roster's okay. I think, they were a throw away from making champs. So I think, to me, can I see them getting back to that level? Sure.
I think they can make champs. I think they can make champs for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Is it likely? But can they?
It's a tough year, man. It's a tough year.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's
I mean, you said it there too. It's the toughest. Yeah.
Exactly.
Every year now is getting tougher.
Yeah, let's transition into fucking Sen. Like, cat narrate and Bang.
Yeah.
Like, low key. There's some new stars on this team. This team is cooking, bro.
I think to make the changes that they made, this was probably as nice a haul as they could have.
Right?
gotten.
It's probably as good as they could. Like, who else could they have got? Like Ospas, maybe? But like,
I'll be interested to see the roles and how they change. Like, does Zekin go back to Sova? Does Naire pick up Sova?
Yeah, we saw John QT at the Red Bull thing, kind of like trying to play initiator.
So the role thing isn't as clean.
Interesting,
but
looked interesting.
I think the talent. Look, it's a good roster. They extended Kaplan, which congratulations to him. Yeah, we'll see.
I think, bro, I think with this roster, you either go all in on Zekin being your main duelist, and you really pump that he's going to be your main duelist, or now I think you could put Narrate on duelist and make Zekin like that 10.
Remember, he was Sova when I wanted him on 100
That's
teams.
what I'm saying.
Talking about it earlier.
So
Sova.
For me, when I watched the Red Bull thing,
he can do it.
I hope it's not a foreshadowing of what their roles are actually going to be, even though I'm sure they're going to be fine no matter what. But I just think John is so good at that Sentinel role. Yeah. And it's really hard to find an actually good Sentinel, in terms of understanding how to play the role in itself. Right. I feel you can slot in duelist players on a Senti and it can translate, but it translates in a different way. Whereas it's a more 1v1 dually style that you have to live by. Whereas an actual Sentinel player understands the lurk timings, understands the value of when he's supposed to take the fight, when he's not. Whereas you put a duelist on it, I mean, you know what you're gonna get, but he might also feed sometimes, and that's just you live or die by it, right?
Right. For me, it's Governor's not the type that I think could transition to Sentinel well. It'll take him more time, but Ban was perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So it's sometimes styles are like that, right? Gov has more gravity, creates more space than Ban, but on Duelist. But Ban is a one-on-one specialist. If you have a guy like that, you can easily transition him. It's super nice. If they don't have the game IQ, you're gonna have to direct more, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how they do though. With this actual roster, I think they're gonna fry.
Same. I'm a fan of Narrate. I feel bad for KC. Could you imagine top of the world season 1, and then all of a sudden you don't make it in the season 2 playoffs because the format is dumb. Just for us too. And then all of a sudden it's the whole KC roster blown up. It's super crazy.
To be fair, when I first saw that roster, and keep in mind, I was a little bit ignorant to that some of the talent in EU. I didn't know some of these players that were actually popping off alongside with Narrate. I knew Narrate was gonna perform. Also didn't think that he was gonna perform that well. In terms of literally hard carrying, it felt at times
too. Yeah.
Oh my fucking god, right? I didn't expect all that shit, but considering the roster that was put together, I thought that they had pretty good success. And I think now it's rumored that they're gonna get saadhak. I mean, fuck, bro, it might be good for them. Yeah, because they clearly lacked a it was definitely an IGL problem. They were too by the book, bro. Whatever the prep was the only thing they had,
Yeah, you could tell Magnum was still feeling it out, and it wasn't that great.
Yes.
But yeah, saadhak going there.
W.
Incredible move by them. Him and Ange are going to be really good together. I think that team could be very good.
Hopefully. But now remember, this is something that we talked about way earlier in the year about saadhak, about how it kind of felt like he was kind of putting a lot of the blame on the coach and not being the IGL that we know he could be.
Right.
Now he can't do that anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of what you were saying with DRX.
Yeah.
Okay, what's your excuse now? You know? So
no, T1 you mean, but yeah.
Sorry, T1. T1. Not DRX. Apologies.
No, it's true. Same thing.
What's your excuse now, bro?
Right. What's your excuse now? Exactly.
Yeah. We go on to G2, who finally got Jaw. They've wanted him last year, and he was just in jail. Hence the memes of him.
I know that's
the
roster we talked about that last week.
Is it too late? All right, hear me out. Is it too late?
Too late for what?
Is it too late? Is the dream dead? Or you think that G2 can still be one of the best teams with Jaw? Do you think it's a year too late?
No.
I don't think it is either. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No.
I think G2 is going to be one of the best fucking teams in NA, hands down.
think they have a run. They probably have another maximum 2-year window with the players they have and the way the game is. Maximum 2-year window. So this is year 1.
Yeah.
Last year, I mean, I thought they overperformed.
Right?
With what they have now, I think.
Okay, so real quick. Do you think that, because now, keep in mind, the pressure is fucking different.
Yes.
Now they're playing for their lives.
Yes.
Do you think this is a team that's going to like embrace that pressure and run with it? Or do you think this is something that could break them? Because this is like an actual honest question. Like, I don't know what the
I think
answer
this
is.
can break
It
them.
could go either way.
And we'll learn about that this year as the game goes. But I think that they're better. They're prepared. I think this should be the best team in North America. I feel way more confident about this team than I did NRG last year, because you remember I was never high on NRG and I knew what
it was the same with me too. Yeah,
right.
I wasn't a believer as well.
Nope. I think G2 is absolutely gonna be the team this year.
Fair. I would agree.
I think Jawgemo, to me, I think he's the best duelist in the world. That does not mean I think he's better than Ospas. I think Ospas is a better player, 1-to-1, but duelist, Jawgemo's that guy.
It's hard to find a duelist that can play every single role.
And 3 years ago, I did not see this coming. When he was just on Jet, on EG, I did not see this coming before franchise.
He's good at Neon. He's good at Raze.
Now,
he's good at Yoru. He's good at Jet.
Now
he's probably good at ISO.
Yeah, Jaw is. And by the way, what Can was doing this year is what Jawgemo did last year. The energy, the run, the enthusiasm, and all that stuff, that was Jawgemo.
He's awesome.
That I think is going to be a perfect fit with Valen. Because Valen's uptight, quiet, like, super focused. Jawgemo gets to be like, the countermeasure to that, which is going to serve them really well, I think. So
I'm in agreement. Now we got Cloud9, Runi, and Vanity are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for Rossy and Vic. I'm surprised by specifically the Rossy move, not because I don't think he's good enough. It's just, to me, I was like, okay, who's going to IGL now? But now I guess it has to be Rossy, right? The Vic one makes so much sense. This guy has been... if you watch him, his mechanics are fucking awesome. He got the experience on Shopify for the last, year or 2 years. I mean, he's ready for the league now, and he's going to be a fucking force to be reckoned with. Like, he's up there in terms of controllers when I think about controllers in NA.
Yeah.
Like, he's probably, like, the closest thing to Bang. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make sense? Like, in terms of, like, anchoring potential and, like, playmaking and mechanics, probably the closest thing to Bang, I would say.
Yeah. Vic on Cypher back in the day was, man, I actually think that's...
Yeah.
He was... Yeah, I think Cloud9, they keep recycling players. We'll see what this year does. I think the roster's decent. I don't think this roster is going to be that good. I think they're going to be a middle of the pack team. They could potentially be what we were and squeak into champs as a 4th seed. But if they were 7th, I wouldn't be surprised. So far, Rossy learned a lot, got a lot of valuable lessons that he got out of this experience at T1.
But here's the thing, though. It's like this team, you get rid of an IGL. You need to pick up an IGL.
Rossy will 100% IGL now. After what he went through, he was IGLing in T1.
Are we lagging?
No.
Shit. I think the screen's frozen for me now.
Oh, I see it now.
Yeah.
Wow. Steve.
I'm good. I don't know.
You get hit by the hurricane?
No. You guys can hear me, right?
How is it, by the way?
We kind of got lucky.
It's just like RNG'd past you?
Yeah, so I'm South Florida. Basically, most hurricanes do this. That's what everyone thought. This hurricane did this. So North Florida, like the central northern part, got fucked. It's actually really bad. Like Tampa got
like wasn't this one of the biggest like hurricanes of all time?
It was like the perfect storm
in the world. Yo, I saw this thing like I saw this thing of like hurricanes like as the years have gone on. It's crazy how much
it's
bigger
getting
they've
worse.
gotten.
Yeah, it's getting worse. I mean,
you guys hear me?
Global warming. Yeah. So hit on Gen G, DRX, DFM.
Hold on,
Gen G's funny, but
let's wrap up Cloud9.
Yep.
So I'm fucking homies with Rossy. That's my dude. But this, in terms of like picking up an IGL, when you have somebody that, and obviously this might be recency bias. Maybe I'm accustomed to this too now, but it's actually not, because I've played against this guy for the last like 2 years. Seeing Mitch play on that roster at Red Bull,
they look very good.
Brother, Mitch, and I talked to Mitch. He hasn't played in 2 months. I'm not trying to make Rossy lose his job.
No.
I'm not trying to make Rossy lose his job, bro. Like, Rossy, you watch this? And by the way, he says he watches it. Respect. I'm not giving you a dig, but I'm just saying, and he would probably agree because he's a pretty cool person.
Yeah.
In terms of picking up an IGL, You picking up the guy that just played in APAC? I'm sorry, like, is APAC known for strategy?
Yeah, that's what I was saying was like EIPL, but like
I'm playing, but I know Rossy's talented as fuck. Bro.
You know, they were, you know, there was a lot of problems and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I think he probably has the confidence now to be like, bro, I could do this. So, and that's what they're going to run with. But I will agree, the way they look with Mitch was really nice.
It looked like butter, bro. No offense, Rossy. I know you deserve to be in the league, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be weird and shit.
But then it goes to show you, like, why they are making all these knee-jerk reactions. By the way, Autumn was there at the time. We need to get into it. But, like, Mitch was replaced. You know, like, it's just, whatever.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap up on NA. Leviatan rumored to have Demon 1, and then, you know, there was rumors that Supamen might be joining as well.
Yeah, I didn't like what the CEO said about Superman. I don't understand why you even need to go there, but it is what it is. I'm sure he has his reasons, whatever. I don't know him at all. But
and by the way, like I know Superman, and I know, like, we both know a bunch of players on the scene. I heard he fucking dominated those trials, brother.
I'm sure.
I heard Super was dropping 30s in the Lev trials, and Lev wanted him, bro.
I know.
And Lev want him. Like, that's what I heard.
I don't know, bro, but I'm not.
Is he ending there?
It is what it is. It is what it is. I think that EG team that they had last year, they should have tried to keep, because that roster could have and was very close to doing stuff. It's sad that they're all, you know, going their own way, but I mean, it is what it is. Demon 1, I'm not surprised, because they're going to lose Aspas, or maybe Aspas has to go back, I think, because there's no market for him at the moment. Like, maybe DRX to replace Buzz, but, you know, whatever.
And like, is Demon 1 going to be playing Raze again? Because we saw how that went. No offense to him.
Maybe he's been working on it.
He didn't get a lot of time, to be fair.
Maybe he's going to work on it. You know, at the end of the day, bro, people are desperate and they need to make moves. And if you're losing Aspas, people think Demon 1 is the guy to replace him. Okay, cool.
You know what I think would have been crazy?
I will admit, same type of player, just not as versatile.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I think would have been crazy? If they could somehow land Kesnet, bro. Right? Right? If you get Kesnet and Shy.
Crew, plus Messi.
No, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
I know. But still, I'm just saying.
You're chilling there.
I'm just saying, though, like, it would be crazy on paper.
Yeah. He's learning English, though. I was speaking to him in Korea before we did our.
Seems like a cool ass dude. I don't talk to him that much. He seems like a cool ass dude.
Bro, he's cool as fuck, bro.
I gotta get more tapped in.
Yeah, but his English is getting better, so you'll enjoy it now. Yeah.
NRG. We finally got the roster.
The boys,
we got Mata, Verno, Bonkar from tier 2 coming in hot.
Yep. Not surprised about Verno, you know.
I think Verno is fucking
Verno
amazing.
And Redux to me were you know, those guys were up next. I was telling you this last year.
There's certain players, 2 players in specific, when I think about, actually 3, but 3 players that are extremely fast in terms of, like, when you peak them, you're fucking dead. And the one player that comes to mind, obviously, is Aspas, because he's just fucking great at the game.
For sure,
right?
for sure.
Great. Yeah, that's a given. But Verno, unfucking believable.
Verno's
like, he is so fucking fast and precise. And then also, on the same level, was Oxy. Oxy was another one that would, like,
Oxy's good too.
If he's holding an angle, it just seems like you're just fucking.
Yeah, Oxy is, man. Yeah, he crept up on me because I thought he was solid, but he's so much better than
impressive, right?
It's what gives me hope about Redux. I think Redux could be that.
I think Redux
level of
could be better than Oxy.
For sure. For that, but the best I mean though, but like Oxy did it. You know, now you got to see Redux do it. But I was so high on Verno and Redux, so happy that they're there. Mata, I think, is a solid pickup given the pace that they did not play with last year.
And also lack of, like, duelists out in the market right now. Like, good duelists.
We talked about this last week. I'm glad that people didn't lose confidence in Mata with the way he performed the grand finals.
Yes.
I normally don't see, so it's, like, very good that, like, people realize, you know, it's a one-off or, you know, whatever, but he's getting
a great year.
Yeah.
He had a great
year. So it's good. Yeah, I mean, you know, he plays all the characters, Neon Rays, so we'll see what happens this year. Jet, obviously. As for Bonkar, I mean, he's the coach of Verno. Verno's probably the number one. I think Verno was basically the best available free agent in North America, right? For sure.
I don't know if he was
it only
a free
makes
agent,
sense to bring a coach there.
but
Yeah.
he was definitely one of the best options you could have gotten on
Right.
Initiator.
So-
like because that guy is one, he's young. Two, he's bred for Valorant. I've talked about this.
I know.
Like,
we talked about this a lot.
his routine is
Oh no, he's my kind of guy. So that means like we would get along great when it comes to professionalism, work ethic. So it's good though. It's good. It's good.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
I'm excited. I think that they'll be pretty good, man. I think that they're. I just find it weird that, and obviously, like I host the NRG podcast as well. I just
say, we
like
haven't
I
brought it
don't
up yet,
like
man.
that Ujan is only here for 1 year. I hope that he was memeing, just trying to get some memes by it. I think he's serious. I don't like that because I just feel like what's like from a team standpoint, like you're the coach. What's the point then? Why not just pick up an IGL now and like start just like looking for the future? But maybe it's because he's gonna maybe like vet Ethan, like you were talking about.
At the end of the day, he needs to develop Ethan.
I just wish I wish he stayed for like longer than a year to actually develop like another IGL.
Yeah,
I feel like 1 year is not long enough.
If they have another run, he might change. It's just
you never know, right?
This is hard work. He was his stream popped off.
Killing it with the stream.
Now it's just there's so many things. He just wants to compete. Let's just see what he does. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It'll be very awkward.
Yeah, it's like
coaching that.
I wish he would stay for at least 2 years.
Yeah, what's also awkward is this Chet Bonkard thing, which I'm not going to get into. You and me have had this conversation. I disagree with the logic though that just because you played something doesn't automatically mean you're going to be better.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you remember what I told you about like Cruz, it's like the potential because Cruz played and then all the other intangibles is why he has probably a higher ceiling than me. But he still has to be able to like hit the beats, understand not just the game, but your players, your team, like run a practice, like what to look for in scrims. Like that's way different. And that's a different skill set. And like, not a lot of players have it because I can tell you a bunch of players that I've had that I don't think would be good coaches because they don't either have the temperament or the personality. And that's weird coming from me because people say I don't have the temperament, but I have the temperament. I just want to fucking win. If you want to fucking win, you and me will not have problems, especially if you keep it at that. When you start getting all out of sorts, that's when me and you can run into shit. But if you just keep it 100 all the time, we'll never have an issue. So I thought that whole thing was funny with Bonkar. So it's going to be real interesting for me to see sort of what's going to happen.
It was definitely a bit of a clickbaity.
Yeah, you set him up.
It was definitely
you fucking set his ass up. You're an op. You're an op.
Brother.
No, but it was awesome. It was a good interview. I actually like watching the NRG stuff.
Yeah.
It's enjoyable for me. I'm sure it's going to be enjoyable for other people too.
Can you guys hear me now?
But yeah, I mean, I'm excited because he's going to bring a different aspect that NRG was lacking for the longest time, which is, I think, aggressiveness. And I think along with the model, like you said, I think this is going to be something really good for them.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely something that they've needed, I mean, since EA. Let's just be honest, bro. Like,
fact.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it for NA pretty much for now. I'm sure there's going to be more stuff coming out. Teams actually releasing their solidified rosters. I think we're still missing like EG, what's going to happen with that. But yeah, now we can move on to APAC, bro. Just, what the fuck happened, bro, in APAC? Bro?
So
what the fuck happened with Gen G, T1, DRX?
Okay, so Gen G's money, and I know Arnold doesn't want to talk. So Arnold, like without like talking shit about people, just know that Arnold is trying to be the smartest guy in the room. So he's trying to be the most fiscally responsible. He's always been on and on and on and on and on. And I can get into it, whether I agree or disagree. But his MO was that this team wanted more money. They weren't going to get it. Other teams are more desperate. It became a thing. It's going to be too. We talk about this. We talked about it today. We talked about it last time. It was going to be way too impossible. Munchkin was looking for a bag. Munchkin is not going to get a bag. He's going to go back. Because there were no options. People realized, wait, I'm not going to get paid as much going where? Some people did get the bag, right? Like Buzz leaving, But yeah, so Gen G, it's sad that, again, they could have been the best team of all time if they made a finals or won at champs. They're going to go down as a disappointment. The team's going to break up. Everything comes down to money. This is Munchkin's last year before he has to go to Army service.
Yeah.
So, it's unfortunate. Lakia ends up in China. We actually just scrimmed the team he's trialing for. Meteor is going. I mean, it's not a secret. He's going to T1. So, yeah. As for T1, you asked about T1.
No excuses anymore.
Super team this year, right? Buzz. Whatever, man. Let them do whatever the fuck they got to do. I look forward to seeing them.
What's the store for DRX? And then obviously DFM. I think we talked about DFM already.
The whole thing. Termy now actually gets to do what I did last year, right? Because now he has to rebuild everything, restart over. Let's see if Termy can do it.
But for why? What was the point of picking up all these young players if you're just going to let them go? Like, how is Bane getting released, bro?
Well, listen, I don't know. Termy the Great knows, right? As far as...
Did Bane not look great? Like, I don't...
Listen, I don't know, bro.
Bro, answer the fucking question, man.
Stacks was the problem. Now Stacks isn't the problem. Now people want to go play with him. I don't know. That's weird, eh? Listen, I don't know. Termy the Great's going to figure it out. I'm going to let homie do him. I can't wait to see his ass. I am sad about one thing. I am sad that Buzz and all these guys are not on the same team going into this season. I'm very sad about that.
Yeah.
For me personally, that is awful.
I had a great
He did
year.
the best at champs, and I would have fucking loved the run back.
Yeah.
However, unlucky.
Fucking Valorant, man.
Yep.
Fucking Valorant.
I most definitely look forward to see how successful DRX is and if Termy is the GOAT. Let's see. He thinks he is for sure, so good luck to him.
Yeah. Boom. Obviously, new team coming in.
Insane. Already making roster changes. This is the reason why I said, okay,
So
I understand
weird,
what G2 did with Net or whatever. That's cool. But I think now that you only have 1 year, I think Riot needs to impose a rule, which is Ascension teams cannot make changes. You can't change a coach. You can't. Once you make it there, you have to make it there now. If you have 2 years, it's different. And if you have a sustainable, healthy tier 2 scene, all right, do what you got to do. We don't. We don't have these things. So to work an entire year only to get fucked at the end, I just don't agree with. And I think that now it needs to stop and we all need to get behind this shit because I think it's bullshit that these motherfuckers make it by luck, right?
Yeah.
Literally a fluke. Now, they could have won it the normal way, but they blew an 11-7 lead on that bind, which, by the way, everyone has to go watch that. Like I said, trust me, best series ever. But they fucking threw. They absolutely threw. And I would be sick. Bro, I'm still mad we lost RLCS Season 1. It still haunts me. There's no fun. That was in 2015. I can only imagine throwing a game like that. Holy fuck.
I think from my point of view and my perspective, I think it depends because, like, bro, what if you did this whole run and, like, this guy was just a piece of shit? Bro, I'm not saying he is, bro. I'm not saying he is.
Right.
But, like, imagine, like, okay, obviously, like, you're the coach, right? And let's just say a hypothetical is you had to play your way in and you just had a player on your fucking team that was just like, man, he was just a fucking menace all year long, bro. And you're like, bro, I can't wait to get rid of this fucking guy, bro. You're like, I can't wait to fucking get rid of this guy. Are you not going to get rid of him, bro? Even if you qualify? I mean, come on, bro. You're going to do it.
That's fair.
I'm not saying that this is the case, by the way.
That's fair. But what I'm saying is there has to be rules in place because, but if he's a dickhead, you're a dickhead that won. First off, Tarek, no disrespect to Tarek, but everyone knows his team had an incredible run in the Boston Major and won it. They won it. And every single one in the scene knew that team was finished and they won. The reason I'm bringing Tarek up is because he's had a successful career post. Sometimes, even if a team isn't vibing, that doesn't mean you can't win. And if you are a team that's not vibing, but you can win Ascension, all of you still deserve the right to compete for it and give yourself a try. Because every single person knew that Cloud9 run in Boston was a miracle. What, should we just not let them play in the tournament?
Yeah.
Because everyone knew that they weren't streaming, they weren't practicing?
I get it, bro. I get it.
So
I see where you're
I
coming
just
from.
feel bad now that I know just how easy it is for people's lives to change. It goes back to what I said earlier about the humanity that we need to have in the league now.
Yeah.
We need to start thinking about this shit as like people, not fucking bullshit.
But it's tough because it is a business. Anyways, anyways.
Right. But Riot cares about kids, young kids, right? That's who they're promoting. What are they promoting by going, hey, young kid, you can go through Premier Ascension, but then when you get there, you can get fucked. Like, do you care about one kids and the evolution of the scene, or which one is it? You can't have it both ways. If you're smart, you'd realize that's what's happening. So, anyways, yeah.
RRQ pick up Kush and Warbirds. It's also fucking crazy that this guy's name is Kush. That's so
Kush is good.
Bro, that is so fucking cool.
Kush is good. I've known about this. I think Kush is
What kind of Kush? No, I'm playing.
No perp.
I'm joking.
There's no perp. I think the Warbirds thing is interesting. I could take that a bunch of ways. All I'll say is, coming out of the secret camp, they said he didn't do anything and he was kind of useless. I know Ewok. Ewok's not going to sign assistant coach. That is
useless.
Right. So something doesn't make sense to me. I'm confused by this move. If what I heard was correct, obviously I don't think it's correct. So I'm not surprised by this. I think it's good for both. Obviously, I expect them to be better. They certainly had their chance. We came out in the 4th seed, but I definitely think they should be a top 4 team this year, for sure. I think I think solid moves. I respect it. Kush is low key nice. Juicy, I'm surprised also hasn't been picked up because he has a potential, but I don't know about his personality. I wonder. But anyways, yeah.
Okay, we got some EMEA news now. There's rumors going. Well, actually, let's talk about you because you had to get rid of Patiphan. We talked about that earlier, and you had to get rid of.
Yeah, Patty didn't want to be there. His contract's up. He's gone. And Aaron needs to play. I'm shocked that these teams that need IGLs don't pick up Aaron. It is insane to me. You've been with him. You saw him in
hard to get in the league.
Sims, but it's just like you need an IGL. There's nobody better. Like. It's insane, bro.
Yeah.
Insane work. So he wants to play. He needs to play. He has to play. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
awesome dude. You know, I'll miss him, but
he's smart.
Like I said, he needs
smart
to play.
And good to be around. He's a cool kid to be around.
And he puts people down. You play with him in Sims.
Yeah.
He cooks.
Yep.
So.
I think that's pretty much it, man. I don't think we really need to touch on some of the other ones. There was some weird stuff like Benji Fishy,
I was going to say that earlier when we were bringing up heretics, like him going to reserve. I think that's so weird. I don't know.
No. So it's because he wanted to play in a co-ed tournament. So there's like a weird like bypass that you can do.
Got it. Because I was going to say
active roster
because some people have in their contract that so basically what. Okay, so I'm going to leak this. Most people don't know. A lot of these orgs in the league bench their players in the offseason to pay them less.
Oh, wait, this actually happens?
Yes, it happens. And it happens way more fucking often than you think.
Brother, if I'm a player in the league, bro, get this shit in your contract so this doesn't happen to you.
Right. The problem is it depends on the leverage you have when negotiating. I can tell you this right now.
Hell no.
In Pacific, it is pervasive. It happens everywhere. In America, it happens too. But it does not happen in the big orgs. But this is... So I thought potentially this could have been it. Now it makes more sense what you're saying about, no, they needed to do this so that he can play in off leagues, which is totally fine. That's cool. But you should know, that pay shit pisses me off. I don't even want to get into this bullshit. I'm not happy. I was stunned when I found out it was this bad.
I didn't know that was a thing, bro.
It's insane.
Like I'm telling you, bro, if you're a player coming into the league, make sure in your contract that's it.
Right. But a lot of these players, especially coming out of tier 2 or coming from different regions, you don't have the cachet and you don't have the, wherewithal or the understanding to know. Right. So you have to basically eat it. But obviously, this is not cool. And this should not be allowed.
No,
but
Riot should not be allowed.
Does not care. So unlucky.
Well, hopefully us bringing it to light will, help out the players a little bit because it's already so fickle, in the fucking league and everything. And career-wise, esports it can be really tough. I actually had to do an interview recently where I was talking to somebody and explaining the immense amount of self-confidence you have to make it in esports. Because honestly, there's times where like, if you don't believe in yourself, bro, like you're fucked. Like, you gotta be willing to like know that you got this and that the grind is all gonna be worth it, because it may as well not be at some point. You know what I'm saying? So you gotta have a huge amount of confidence in yourself to make it, because there's no guarantees in this shit. From everything that we've seen throughout our careers playing in multiple games, not just Valorant. It's every game.
Facts. And it takes an even bigger sicko to do it in multiple games.
Yes.
Like different games, different genres.
I know, bro. Yeah. Me and you both were pro in like so many different types of games. The only thing I have
crazy thing was me and you finding out about fucking Crossfire.
Oh, Crossfire, yeah. Crossfire is crazy.
That we were literally there at the same time and didn't even know until we talked about it on this show.
Actually so insane,
which is still so mind-blowing to me.
I know. It's a crazy one.
But yeah.
It's a crazy one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it, man. That's all the news on the rumors going around in NA. I'm excited, and I mean everywhere, not just NA. I'm excited for some of these rosters, and yeah, man, fuck, bro. I can't wait to see. For one, I can't wait to see Navi, Koi play. I can't wait to see NRG play again. Yeah, and even EG. And we didn't get to talk about them because they haven't announced anything, but I know what they're cooking up. I think you might know what they're cooking up.
I've heard some whispers. Yeah. I'll just say I hope Icy gets a chance, because
I think Icy would be perfect for that team too. Yeah, I think it'd be perfect because there's no other real. I mean, like, who can they really pick up? They can pick up like Icy Sim. I know they're trialing Chaotic. As far as tier 2 duelists go, I mean, it's pretty much only Sim, right? Like, because Koala's already taken. So, like, who are you gonna pick? You know, like Sim or Icy? Icy played a whole year with G2.
Yeah, I mean,
that's crazy. That's a. The only thing that was bad about Icy was that he didn't have experience, and now he has it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's
I don't really know what to say about. I'll just say Icy is great. I don't want to say anything about anyone else because Potter has to do her job. So
we know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So
all right, that's it. That's a wrap ski.
Yeah.